Hey guys, welcome to the Commentator's Curse, where we keep adding a new season for every one episode we do because I'm super busy and I am the person that is not contributing to regular content, so that is my bad. How are you doing, the Crimson Blur?
I am fantastic, big chillin'. I hope you're well, Tafo, and stream because we're streaming this.
I heard you're about the Slay the Spire life. What records do
What?
you actually have?
So I have the rotating world record for the game, but I haven't actually been playing for last 6 weeks at least, maybe 7 now. So I haven't been streaming for a while, but I've been playing a lot of Melee. I'll tell you that. I used to be playing a lot of League, and then now I've been playing a ton of Melee. Pretty much playing like 6 to 8 hours a day of Melee, a lot. And your boy's kind of getting schnazzy, getting a little bit better. So that's been really fun.
What have you learned?
And
Like, what have you learned from your journey back into Melee?
well, I never really truly stopped ever since saying I was gonna start playing again, I think a year ago, like 8 months ago. But I'm much more active now. And I think the things I've learned, I think for me, it's more like just getting some of the mental right. Like I think I've always had big problems with um playing friendlies to win sometimes and not to learn, not to implementing stuff. I Before I play any slippy session, I always spend at least 20 minutes grinding tech skill and just to first be warm for the actual matches, but also sometimes that 20 minutes turns into 40 minutes and then it basically makes it so that I actually do tech skill practice every day, every time, and that's pretty good. But for the most part, you know, unranked and playing on unranked, the skill level is typically pretty low, but sometimes you fall into a pretty good match with decent ping, and that feels great. But you can learn a lot from pretty much every opponent, so it's still really fun.
Do you have like a regular rotation of players you play against, or are you just like random queuing?
No, I'm just random queuing. I don't like the whole going and asking people thing. Like that whole process is too annoying for me to care yet. I feel like unless I'm winning 100% of my unranked games, which I'm not yet, then I don't care
Got
enough
it.
to do that. Yeah, no, I don't care enough to do that until that point.
Dude, you'd probably beat me at this point.
I would hope so. I mean, you're not really playing, and we weren't that far in skill level off when
Oh,
we were both active. It wasn't crazy. So,
hey, I made top 32 in majors in my heyday.
oh, I mean, yeah, that part, your prime for sure. I'm talking about when you were washed up and I was still sort of playing. It was the matches were decent at least,
Yeah, yeah,
But
that's true. That's true.
your during your actual prime, yeah, you were way better than me. That's not even close.
So, like, I think like an interesting thing to talk about, right? It feels like every time a new Smash game comes out, it's just like right for the picking that they eventually become Melee fans because of circumstance. And it's kind of interesting because like a lot of the Ultimate guys, like I look on their Twitter, they're like Melee's hype right now. Like I look at Esam, Mr. R, they're like, oh, like I'm picking Melee up. I'm like, what do you think about that?
I mean, what else are they gonna do?
They can play.
Literally,
They can play on their ultimate net play, whatever abomination
yeah,
that is.
absolute garbage, right? First of all, I mean, of course, due to previous events, a lot of their top influencers left or got kicked out.
Yeah.
And then you have alt net play being what it is, and there's no locals or tournaments. I'm extraordinarily curious if or when COVID ends, what alt numbers are, because I expect a 60-70% decrease. I expect some insane number decrease
So I have
from where
that
it was
like,
at.
so like, if we're to make a bet today, like when do you think that's gonna like we're gonna see our first major where like at least like 500 people go?
Can I say something that you're not gonna like to hear?
Speak the truth.
I think 2023.
Oof. Okay, I'm gonna
That's
actually I
that
actually thought
that
2022 minimum, but I want to hear like why you think that.
I honestly think that at this point. So I was talking to people, and I'm noticing what's happening right now. First of all, it's on the rise again. And now this is the fourth, maybe fifth time where it's gone down and the numbers have gone back up. We're at a 3-month high right now in our numbers. And I'm just going and I am seeing how people are acting, like, or just in general, and you go around and you walk the streets and see how what like the behavior patterns, and I just don't have faith in people actually being able to do what they need to do to stop the pandemic, because people are just not being good about it. They're not following the guidelines at all. And so if that's the case, then I don't expect, until there's a vaccine or a cure, or we get some level of quote unquote herd immunity or whatever the hell that happens, right? Or we just like kind of suck it up and do it. Um, I don't expect it to go down, because we haven't actually made any progress in 6 months, right? Like, okay, great, it's been 8 months, so you'd expect there, we're 8 months in, we must be closer to the finish line, but it's like we actually haven't made progress. It's like in many ways as bad or worse than it has been, and the rhetoric isn't any better either, right? We literally just today you're hearing Trump talk about how Fauci's an idiot and all this crap. It's like in fact, it's gotten more polarized and it feels like less productive, and the behavior has gotten worse than it was 6 months ago, when maybe people were like, hey, okay, let's just knock it out of the park. People are tired of it, and people aren't taking it seriously anymore. So I think the businesses that are doing well with it are like the ones who have figured out how to like make themselves not die in the meantime. Like some hotels are okay, restaurants who have outdoor seating, like et cetera, like businesses that are trying to make it work and finding smart ideas. I initially thought like the NBA bubble wasn't going to work. It worked beautifully, right? It's undeniable. It was a massive success, right? Just like geniuses over there that made that happen. um and I think that's like we have to like really think for esports, Smash, everything. Like, okay, if this actually goes that long, and if we all stop like mentally assuming that, okay, in 6 months, a year, whenever COVID's over, I'm gonna like that's when I'm gonna make do this, that, or this, right? Because like I think everybody feels like their life's on pause, and they have like life goals which they plan to resume when COVID's over, right? Like naturally. And similarly, we have that with Smash community goals. I think if we just stop living in that mentality and assume this is the new normal until it's not, then um I think that would be way healthier for everybody, like mentally. It would just work better. And I mean, with Bill Gates saying 2025, I guess 2023 is really not that pessimistic by me.
Yeah, I think the scary thing here is that we haven't really gone through a winter, like with it being spread, and like you have the flu, and viruses under lower temperatures like thrive a lot more. Whereas in the summer, where we've seen like low numbers and it's starting to creep up, like I'm just a little worried that like when everything comes together, the flu, the virus thriving in the winter months, like people getting sick, like I don't even know what's going
Yeah.
to happen, and that's I think really scary to me.
Yeah, I mean, we're at a high again right before winter starts. That's we're supposed to have decreased in numbers to a manageable point before winter starts, and winter is going to be a disaster, right? And not only that, economically, right? Like we have all this outdoor seating we talked about, but only in the West Coast is that like still viable, right? Like what are the East Coast businesses going to do? All the restaurants out on the East Coast, they're just going to get destroyed. And forgetting that, like no matter what happens in this election next month, there's going to be fallout. The one thing that we know is that there's going to be major fallout. Neither side's going to be happy about it. There's a lot of emotions charged about it. And I know we don't like this is an esports show, but like this stuff is going to affect us very much, right? Like it is all very related. Yeah, like I think that there's so much uncertainty, but the one thing I can say for certain is that like the earliest I can imagine seeing tournaments back is Q3 of next year. Like if everything goes perfectly, somehow we luck out and we're in the one like good universe, and everything goes perfectly, Q3 is probably the earliest. And at that point, it's still not majors yet. I don't think it maybe Q4, Q1 of the following year for majors. So it's going to be a long time.
Yeah, and I can't imagine like as a TO, I think a lot of people like eventually want the return. I don't know if anyone like one event wants to be like responsible to be like the super spreader, right? I don't know if Juggle guys, heart is like, yeah, like I don't see any risk here or anything that cannot go like. It's
Well,
just yeah. Go ahead.
Tafo, I think there's a lot of things. I think for some reason people aren't talking about the effects. People talk about mental health, people talk about a lot of things, but I think people aren't talking about the wider impacts of COVID, right? There's this, how it's affecting the younger generation in terms of how it's getting their education and stuff. But in talking about us and very much in Smash terms, one of the biggest effects, and I think that's untalked about, is a lot of friendships are going to be lost through COVID, right? Like people aren't hanging out with their circle of friends. Sometimes they have like a core group that they talk to, like that they're still like going to dinners with or whatever. But so many friendships are going to be lost in this process because people aren't going out as much. And then when the year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, however long it takes until this thing ends happens, like people aren't going to reconnect, right?
Yeah.
So much of community is going to be lost, and that's going to harm people's mental health long term for years to come naturally. And because we just talked about community and friendships, like that relates to us. Like there's a big open question of like what is the community that we'd be coming back to, and who would be in it, and who would be running the events. You just talk about the events, right? Like,
Yeah.
are those TOs even going to be around anymore, right? Like, what does it mean to have had a small business in esports and Smash when there hasn't been esports and Smash for multiple years, right? Like those people have just moved on with their lives. So yeah, I don't know, and I think a lot of those are open questions.
Yeah, I think like the way I envision it, right? Like I go into the player discords, right? And I think like I see streams growing. Like all the melee streamers have gone from like 20 to 30 viewers to like 80 to 100. And I think
Mm.
strangely enough, by proxy, like the void of in person interactions and friendships has gone to, hey, like I watch Ginger, like I see you here a few times, and I think that's like the closest that people are getting is through like the Discord groups and through the streams that come out regularly. And I think that's part of the reason why like a lot of the melee streamers are actually kind of growing a little bit, is because like that's like the little community of melee that they have.
Yeah, but that's super worrisome
Yeah,
because
definitely.
so here's what's worrisome. People aren't making local prize winnings anymore, right?
Yeah.
A lot of money just dried up from the scene. And I fully expect even some of the sponsored players to get their sponsors dropped. Not it's not gonna take that long, right? Like how long will people be paying for like a community which now has probably 10% of its total viewership that it used to, right? Like
Is it that low now?
yeah, I'm sure, dude.
I'm
Look at
curious.
it. Like
Yeah.
our like if SCL's our biggest tournaments, like how much did it get? 10K maybe 11K, 11K I saw a peak.
The CLG
Like
event got 15.
great 15. You know what Genesis got? Like like
Yeah.
we're supposed to be hitting 100Ks, 200Ks. Like have we forgotten who we are? Right?
Yeah.
Like we have events with thousands of people. Like this is like that's what it means to invest into the scene and expect your brand to be advertised. It doesn't mean like a logo on a 200 viewer live stream. And then like occasionally once every few weekends there's like a 10K 15K event, and you can literally count on one hand how many Smash events have gone 10K plus viewers ever since COVID started. It's this extraordinarily small number. And like it's not like all the players have been participating in it. It's not even the best exposure, right? Because a lot of those events like haven't been able to like show your brand off. Like, yeah, people are gonna lose sponsors. Like that's almost guaranteed. And so like where does sustainability go? And then the next tier, like we always funded our next tier of players through local winnings, right? Like they were like able to sort of like live at home with their parents while like making like a few bucks winning, getting first at like a 90-man local, right? Not the most
Hey,
glamorous
dude,
living, but
some of those, I mean, Mango used to make 2K from the Ohio locals between PM and Melee, singles and doubles. Like,
yeah, I mean it's a real thing, right? Like, and that's how it actually happens for the Smash community. People make an okay living off locals. Maybe they get a performance at a major. Maybe they get picked up by some sponsor, tier 3 sponsor, and they hobble together with like a stream money to make it happen, right? And that's like all of that's going away. So like there's like a fundamental loss of revenue across the scene. And so just because like a few streamers get a few more subs doesn't mean that like I think this is we are strong enough to have taken this blow for a few months, but if it really does go 2, 3, 4 years, like I'm super worried for us.
yeah. And I think the one thing we forget is like the pot fillers, like the casual, like people that are like playing the like, I think expendable income, right? A lot of people lost jobs. A lot of like I don't think
Mhm.
expendable income is just as readily available for younger people. So I can't imagine a bunch of college kids like really like making the trek, buying hotels, airfare, and all that.
Sure, sure. Right. Everyone just got poor, which is bad for us because, we need them to spend money for it to all to work. Now, having said that, like it is a lot worse for Ultimate than it is for Melee. We have Slippy. Like it is not even close. That's not necessarily an encouraging thing because for majors to come back, like the first major that comes back has to ask the question, what is my expected attendance in total? Right. And if Ultimate is a lot smaller, then you got a lot of things to worry about,
Yeah,
right? What size venue should you book out? Let's say someone waves a magic wand and COVID's over and we're right around to next October, right? And so you'd expect a new big house, right? So Juggle Guy has to decide, okay, do I still book out, the convention center with this big room that's normally there for 5,000 people or whatever, like potentially, or should I just get a way smaller venue and expect like 1,500 people, like literally.
I mean, I think you
I'm
have to
thinking about those numbers.
I think you have to cap, right? Like that's just way too much liability, and like I feel really bad for like the Jabali's of the world that signed multi-year contracts. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's tough. You always have to try to get out of those contracts, but yeah, I think also the FGC has it worse than us. A lot of their games don't have good online, and they like don't like have Slippy Champions League. Like that stuff is not happening for them in the same context. Like they're just kind of just nothing, a whole lot of nothing for a while. So it's like, okay, at least we're doing the best of the quote unquote FGC, even though I don't like calling Smash as part of it.
yeah,
Like we are doing the best of the group, but like League has handled it really smoothly,
yeah,
right?
they did
Like
a good job.
there's some games which are handling smoothly. Dota's not, right? Like Dota's just dead right now, pretty like not dead, but like relative to what it was, it's like they're not doing TI. They're like it's not similar. So like you look across the spectrum and you're like some esports are making it work, and some aren't. And I think the next year is the big question. It's like do we start having to genuinely think about like what we're comfortable with, but like restaurants did, like other businesses did, just to see like what we can make work in the meantime.
Yeah, I think it's almost like a weird monkey paw wish, where it's like the beginning of 2020, we're like, how could like I want Melee to be bigger than Ultimate, right? The wish was granted, but just not in the way we thought or actually wanted. Um,
Yeah, and yeah, I mean it we got Slippy. That's pretty dope.
yeah. So like, I think we could like talk. I think we could talk endlessly about COVID. I think
Mhm.
we're probably more on the pessimistic side of the spectrum in terms of like if we asked 100 smashers like when do you think we're going to go back, oh I'm willing to bet a lot of people say next year, like in the next 6 months. I don't think that's happening, but we could go down the dreariness of pessimism, or we could talk about Slippy. um, so
Yeah.
i think I think despite the fact that we're not able to go to events, I think there's more Melee played now than like ever in the past like 10, 15 years, other than like the game very first came out and all the casual fans were playing it. Like would you agree that we're playing more Melee like collectively? I like more There's more volume hours in Melee I think now than ever.
Oh yeah, I would assume that's the truth, right? Like Smash Ladder was decent, but like way more people find the convenience of Slippy good, and I think that like the potential of Slippy, as I always like to tout, like, is so high. It's not just like the current unranked matchmaking. That's our V1, right? Like, there's like all the different things they're going to add. We just saw Spectator, already being now used at events. Like, that's incredible. You know how long it takes like a video game developer to like develop Spectator mode? I used to play Guild Wars. It took the game 2 years to come up with spectator mode. It took my boy Fizzy and the homies on the Slippy development team like a couple months. Like, are you kidding me? Like, that is not easy, guys, right? Like, my man just made a spectator mode. And, like, okay, it has to get shipped to the public still, so there's still a little bit of work to be done. But after that is ranked, like, whoa, like, these things are going to be like massive bombs onto the scene in terms of like accessibility, just how much fun it is to be a part of Melee and everything. Like, so it's hard not to be excited about Melee. Despite everything that's going on in the world, it's like we're still really excited and we're still really positive just because of we have this one thing keeping us happy.
Where does we go forward 5 years right now, right? And we're gonna create a greatest of all time list of like people who influence the scene the most, right? Like where would Fizzy fall, right? Like given the rate he's going.
Oh, if you fast forward 5 years, he could become number one. Absolutely. Um, I mean, right now there's good arguments, right? Like, dude, he's carrying the scene right now. So dude, he's a legend, along with the other greats, the Sheridans, the Joe guys, the
Matt
Tafokints,
DC's,
Matt DZ, of course, gets a
Sam
lot of
Mox,
credit.
like
Sam Mox, yeah, Brandon Homemade Waffles, Gimmer, ton of these guys who deserve a lot of credit for doing great work. But yeah, Fizzy's just killing the game right now, and well, not killing the game. He's making the game a lot bigger. So all the love in the world.
you know what's like crazy? So like like it's kind of crazy to think about that Melee existed in a time that YouTube didn't exist. Remember the old days where we were on IRC and that was the way we got videos? And like even then, like not every event recorded. I remember the progression of like Fox being so slow in like 02, 03, 04, just because like information was being passed. There were no videos, people were isolated. I just think that right now, like what's happening is that like the evolution of players is just gonna go so fast. And I like if you're to make a bet, right? Like we're saying 2023 is the date that we're all coming back, right?
Mm.
How many of the top 50 are gonna be new players that like you've never like really heard of?
See, that's the crazy part is that I can't tell when I'm on Slippy and I face against someone and like they have a tag under their name. I'm like, oh, maybe it's a Smurf, maybe it's their, but it might actually just be their actual tag, right? They might have just gotten this good in 8 months, like plus whatever, how good they were. Like they might have been an okay player and then they grinded for 8 months and now they're actually schnasty and they're like hiding out in the bushes waiting for tournaments to come back, right? Um, and I think everyone's had a similar experience where like, okay, you're winning almost all your matches in unranked, but then you run into this one dude and you're like, this guy's insane, right? And I think, yeah, for sure, I expect a large portion of the new top 50 to be new players, and it's because I think so many people got added to the game through Slippy.
Yeah, and I think like Uncle Punch and like 20XX, they added a new dimension of like random local players that were just like insane at tech skill. Like you would see people triple shining at like locals. I think Billy Bo Peep being one of the early people, and now he's actually like a really decent player. I think this just like evolves the players, like where like not only are they going to be technical, but they're also going to be pretty smart.
Tangent. This is a bit of a tangent, and I want to talk to Fizzy about this. Um, uh, we should just merge those, by the way, those projects. Why isn't why
Which
isn't
ones?
like why isn't the training pack a part of Slippy? Like, why is that not just like a menu option? Like, why do I have to open up two ISOs to go from exercise into matchmaking? Like, it doesn't make sense. We should just have it be one. They're clearly like the two things people use at this point, right? Like the training pack is essential. So let's just merge them.
Yeah, that'd be sick. And then like as you're waiting in queue for ranked, like you can do like exercises.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
sick. I'm down.
The alternate solution is you just run two PCs and you just you just have two controllers and then you play on one, but that's not really practical. So I think there's like a lot of interesting discussion, right? And actually, it's funny enough. I think you asked this question. This is also a side tangent of like how many people have actually gone out to eat since COVID. So I actually grabbed lunch with Mango. I was helping him take care of his taxes, and we are just like talking melee, like what he said, like, and then like a lot of his discussion actually was like he actually it's almost to the point where like he was offended at what Armada's a comment. This was before all the Twitter beef happened, where Armada was like, "Oh, the meta hasn't changed much." And I want to like hear from your
Yeah.
insight. Like, what do you think about that? Like, what do you
So
think about like? Yeah,
it's funny because I talked to Mango about this. I was on Zane's stream and me and Mango were there and we were all like talking about it. I think he just finds it disrespectful. Is really what it is. I think he views it as Adam saying that they haven't gotten better. And he's like, what do you mean we haven't gotten better? Like, we've been playing this entire time. You think we're just wasting our time putting 8 hours in a day in and just like are worse than we were years ago? That's bullshit, right? And he's probably very right, especially on a personal level. Like, I think Mango is literally the best he's ever been right now as a player, right? Now, maybe compared to the competition, of course, he was number one in the world at one point, and maybe you'd argue he's second right now. But in terms of like pure skill, like I take current Mango over any version of Mango for sure, for sure, undoubtedly. Um, and also I think like, especially seeing that this discussion is coming like from Armada, Mewtwo King, and Drug Fox,
Yep.
the three guys who are like retired, right? Like it's like the active players are just kind of like, well, um, you guys aren't even playing us to know, right? Like maybe you're watching VODs and you're not seeing it or something.
Do
Like
you
how
feel
what,
do you
like
feel
you
like they're
can't
being
just
like Paul Pierce right now?
yeah, a little. It's like you're like retire and then you like throw stones. It's like what? That's not cool. So I see where they're coming from, but having said that, like on the facts of it, right? Like forgetting the emotions and the disrespect of it, is Armada right? And is Dragon Fox right? Has the meta not advanced? Would Armada still do insanely well? So number one, the meta has absolutely advanced. The saying that it hasn't is so absurdly wrong that I like actually don't understand. I would love to talk to Sammy to understand his perspective, but I'm already like 100-0 feeling it's wrong. Like it can't possibly be like it's so obviously wrong. Like for example, you saw Lovage, a player who played a few years ago, be surprised that Zane did a suicide down air trade with Firefox, right? During the Slippy Championships League. No one was doing that. Zane's doing it now. If you want me to talk about the last 2 weeks, I can tell you innovations that Zane is adding into his game. Just because I watched Zane stream all day, right? Like he's now using Mart's no impact land on Yoshi's story to do top platform text chases.
Yeah.
Top platform. No one was doing that. That was not a thing. That was not like an existing like mix up or part of the tree at all. And now that's the thing he's just doing. So like the idea that there is an advancement, I'm like, are you watching? I know Sammy in particular watched a lot, so I feel like I just need context from him to
Yeah.
understand where he's coming from. Like I respect Sammy a lot, so it's like there's got to be something he's saying. Maybe he's talking about the overarching gameplay concepts, which that might be true. Like it's not like Marth has to get the grab. Like that part is correct about Fox versus Marth, but like the intricacies are really the things that are being advanced, and maybe he's talking about the macro play. Like it's hard to know with the Twitter context.
Yeah. So I talked to Sammy actually a little bit. We actually occasionally talk on Facebook. I think there's two parts to it, right? And there's like the average level of gameplay that we see, which I think we all agree. Armada would agree, Jason Mutaking would agree, Sammy would all agree that the average level of play has gone up. Like the top 5 to 30 players, they make less mistakes. Like they're slide off teching, they're doing everything they can to escape combos, make neutral harder. Like I think they would all across the board say like that the depth of player skill has gone up. What Sammy's arguing is that at the tip top that there really aren't new things being added as much as people are claiming to be. Like that's
I,
Sammy's argument.
I just, but like you watch IBW and Zane in particular, like and Mango actually, like these guys are actually innovating so many things. I feel like I just see. I'm trying to figure out like how I could just keep rattling off like anecdotes of like different things that like I'm going into those guys' streams and talking to them and like having conversations with them and talking about things that they're trying to add to their game. And it's like, well, are those not advancements? Like if dudes are just adding things to their game that they weren't doing before, that feels like advancement to me, right? And I think, for example, like with Leffen, yeah, him going Sheik is going to cause a lot of advancement for Sheik, right? Like guaranteed, he's way too smart of a player for that not to be true, and we are seeing him do some cool new things
Yeah.
in that department.
So like overall, like I think there's like a lot of little things that add up, and I think like when we look back to when Armada Mutaking and like when they played, like how many sets went down to like the last hit where they clutched something or went down to a game of inches. And when I look at like things today, like I look at like Shroom's like a good example, still a really solid player, but like every player he played against in like the Smash League, like he has to like do 2 extra things to guarantee the kill. Like everyone's good at escaping. They all understand DI. Like they all omps attack. They all slide off. Like they're adding these like little things that just make it like just that much harder to like do what you want to do. And I think that makes a huge difference now.
So Stairway 7 says, are advancements being made slower today versus like 2014? Honestly, it depends on the character. So like with Marth, for example, no, this is the fastest Marth has grown since like Ken, right? Like legitimately, I'm not even exaggerating. Like you have to go back to like Ken and like when Mewtwo started doing his thing, to like when Marth got advanced to this level. And that's why a lot of us are excited about like where Mart's going, and you're even seeing it not just from Zane. Like you saw that guy Acidex, he's putting out like single hit nair combos and like down smashes and like all this weird stuff. Forrest has always been a nut. Like there's a ton of new stuff that's just like with hitbox and things that you like combos you've never seen before that are absolutely coming out right now. So it depends on the character, right? Now, if you ask me, is Pikachu leaps and bound different? Like is Axe's game plan leaps and bound different now versus a year ago? Not in ways I can see. Maybe I just don't know.
It's like very minor at best.
I'm not a Pikachu god like Axe is, right? Like, but from my eye test and from what I know about Pikachu and from everything I've seen or heard Axe say, like he does implement new things, but it's not like holy cataclysmic change like I would say Marth is, right? Like Marth is and I would also say like there have been periods of slow advancement for Marth. Like actually most of Mewtwo King's reign, like he just kind of did the same stuff with like
Sheik
small
was like that
adjustments.
too, right? Like for the longest time.
Yeah, exactly. And until Plup came, right? When Plup hit the scene and switched to Sheik, that was like insane advancement on Sheik, like all at once, right? And that happens sometimes. But like, so it depends on what character you're talking about, really, because these things happen in bunches.
Yeah, and then I think like a lot of the mid tiers, just because players aren't playing them, like maybe there's like random players that are hidden bosses that are like advancing them, but I would say those characters aren't advancing as quick as some other characters. I think with like that being said, like oh god, I just had a thought. I think game plans are just getting way better, right? We're like pointing a lot to like the micro, right? Like slide offs, these little techniques. Like, yeah, like Hungrybox may not be motivated, Axe may not be motivated because it's online. Like, I think there's a mix of like maybe they're not playing to their full potential because it's offline and they're like focusing on other stuff. But at the same time, like game plans against those players have just gone better across the board, right? Like imagine a world where Hungrybox it was as easy as it was like 2 years ago. Like HBox would probably be more motivated, more excited, right? But like now, like every player is camping Hungrybox or making it really hard for him to get the hit. So like, is Hungrybox less motivated, and does he appear this way because like that's how he actually feels, or is it because it's gone harder?
Okay, so there's a mix here, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's definitely a mix, right? Like for sure, this guy's like playing Minecraft Steve all week.
Yeah.
This is not HBox in form. Like you'd have to actually just turn your brain off to pretend this is prime HBox, right? Like it's just not true.
Yeah.
And you have to not watch the games. Like, look, he was our #1 player in the world 8 months ago, right? There's no world that he falls off so hard that he loses to a guy like Azel. And with all due respect to Azel, like that's just not an HBox loss. Like that's not possible.
But to be
that's
fair,
just not possible. Azel did not get so much better in 8 months to get better than to beat the #1 player in the world, and it'd be a normal occurrence, right? Like it's just not a thing. So there's a mix here, right?
Yeah.
And it might be an HBox specific thing, but the guy is not motivated. There's a bit of what he's saying is true, and he's being a bit of a wiener, but it's okay. You know, hopefully we get him back. Of course, you know I'm an HBox fan. I hope we get the clutch box back. He needs a dub, but I also think that like I think if you took current IBDW and you put it against Prime HBox, I'm not sure Prime HBox beats that. In fact, IBDW probably wins a lot of the time at least, right? So that's to say that okay, yeah, so people are figuring it out a little bit. So it's a mix, right? So people are figuring it out a little bit, but I think the majority in HBox's case, the majority of it of how I'd explain it is this guy's genuinely playing Minecraft Steve all day. Like, what do you want?
But to be
you
fair,
can't play you can't play the hardest game of all time.
Did we really
you can't play Melee?
So Armada put out a tweet, right, saying like the top players are trying less. But like to be fair, like you and I know enough about the top players to know how bad their work ethic was, right? HBox didn't grind the game. He was working full time during his peak. Wizrobe played Smash 64 and streamed random stuff. Leffen played Dragon Ball FighterZ, right? So like for Armada to make the point, like the top players aren't trying like more, as if like that's a new thing. Like in 2016,
I disagree here.
Yeah,
I disagree here. Here's why I disagree.
Why?
So a few reasons, right? Number one, let's take HBox for example, right? He was traveling to tournaments every single weekend. Don't forget how often he traveled.
Yeah.
Right. You're talking about like his grind. You're talking about the weekdays. And first of all, he would during the weeknights, he would be playing Melee on his stream, not Ultimate, and he would be talking to Crunch. And then he'd have like weekends where he'd be playing for 3 straight days. So by the time the important matches come around, he's like played for 3 straight days at the tournament, right? Like he's doing that. Versus now, he like with Slippy's format, Slippy's format, he gets dumped against really good players like after playing Ultimate for a week. It's like not even close to the same thing. So like versus like 50 weekends out of the year he's flying around and going to tournaments.
That's
Like practice like it's just no, HBox is not in the same form.
okay.
It's not true for him. Sometimes people didn't have the grind like they do now. I think that's a result of Slippy and stuff. But like the guy we're pointing at it falling off, like his particular example, like yeah, no, HBox is
So
not practicing.
I think HBox is fair, but like you and I know the habits of the top players, right? Like a lot of players didn't even play like melee from like January to like April, May, and then like in May they would start playing again, right? Like
Mm.
I think to say that work ethic is like significantly, like I would say like HBox, like you have that point, and I actually agree with you. I changed my mind on that. There are a lot of players that didn't grind the game like for like 8 months out of the year. Like
Sure. Those players, you know what the trend is they didn't stay good.
yeah, they're like the
It's funny.
players that finished in like 10th and 20th now, and they're hovering in the 30s.
Yeah, exactly. It's the thing is Melee along with Brood War is the hardest mechanical game of all time. You can't expect to stay good if you're not fucking playing and grinding the game. It's just how it is. Which is funny because the game has, like the lowest prize pool of all major esports. So it's funny how that works out. But yeah, you have to actually put in the effort. And I think now that people are getting more tools to facilitate the effort and make the effort more fun, right? Like it was like if you wanted to like super grind to get better back in the day, it's not just that people weren't doing it. It's just it was really hard to do it. Like, you have to play against CPUs, and
Yeah,
then like you have to invite people over, and then truthfully, like the people you invite over aren't going to be as good as you. So it's like, is it even worth it? Is it good practice? You probably in the back of your head are thinking no, so you don't practice as much, right?
yeah.
So now we've just made practicing and playing a lot of fun and really rewarding. So of course people are grinding more, so now it takes a lot more maintenance to keep up. Um, you said earlier, what did I learn when I came back? This is not a learning I had now, but back when I started playing again in NorCal, this was like 8 months ago. No, this was like a year, more than a year ago, year and a half ago. When I actually like really went to locals again. I got second at the maid when that happened. Yeah, boy. Um,
Nice.
yeah, we lost to Kevbot. What are you gonna
Yeah,
do? So the when I came back, the number one thing I noticed is now more than ever, your form matters. Like
yeah,
maybe the most deterministic thing for determining and predicting a result, even at like the low level, is are you in shape? Are you in melee shape? Right? I used to be able to like walk into a tournament sort of rusty, lose to people better than me, and beat the people worse than me. You know what I mean? Like just and it'd be fine. But if you go into a tournament nowadays and in a competitive environment in Smash out of shape, you're going to lose to the people worse than you or quote unquote worse than you, right? Because you're not in shape and you have to be in shape nowadays. And that's a big deal because people are all in shape just because of they have the tools to be.
yeah. And I feel like it's harder to like create game plans where like you just like feel things out, like because when I play a lot more players, like towards even the end when I played, like a lot of players knew the correct response to like things that like I guess we'd call them check marks and checkmate scenarios. Where like back then, like I would be able to get away with so much for free. Like everyone crouch cancels now. Like that was the thing that just started developing like 2017 to 2018 for like the common player. Like I can't get away with a lot anymore. And if I miss a punish, like I drop a tech chase, like and I do 20 damage, then they do like 80 damage. Like I'm not catching up from that.
Having said that, people are still really bad,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? Like when you say the overall skill, yeah, but I'm still queuing it on unranked and like winning every match. Like
Yeah.
ultimately, come on, all these sheiks are still doing like F tilt and dash attack. When I'm at 0%, right? Like they're not like, and these foxes are doing the dumbest nairs I've ever seen in my life. So people still have to learn, right? Like a lot of these players have a lot of learning to do. So the question is, and this is to answer, we already said for Drug Fox, he says the meta's not evolving. I just strongly disagree. I don't think he's
But he's
correct.
not saying it's not
But
evolving. He's saying it's evolving very slow, or like not as much as people say it is.
I think he's just straight up says it's not significantly different. Didn't he basically say it's not evolving?
Actually,
It's
let me
not significant.
let me investigate the Twitter world because
To,
I
to
think he
say
did.
it's a to say it's evolving slower, maybe that could
He said,
maybe that's
"Okay,
something he
can I read the
agrees.
tweet?
Yeah.
Just my take. Melee has barely changed at the top level in the last several years. I may not compete anymore, but I've spent the last 2 years watching hours of VODs per day for lessons, so I feel like I've seen quite a bit."
Barely changed. That's just not true, right? It's just not true. What the
He
hell is Zane to you? You know, what is the Zane man to you? Is what I'd ask. You know, how's this? Why? And it's not. I don't want to just harp on just Zane like no one else is doing new stuff, but like I just don't think it's. I literally just don't think it's true. Now I'd have to talk to him to get more context. But now to go to Armada's question, right? Where it's like, how good would Armada be right now? Like if we took Prime Armada and put him into the scene right now, where would he be? Who would beat him and whatever?
top three.
Um, you think he'd be top three?
Yeah.
So who would he do well against? Who would he lose to?
I think he gets shat on by Zayn. Like,
So that's the thing, right? I was thinking the same. I'm like, dude, I think he just dodged a bullet. He dodged like the biggest bullet of all time. You have a player who is a Peach Fox main, right? And the Fox is the secondary, right? And he runs into the greatest, like the best Marth we've ever seen by far, right? This is like the biggest bullet dodge ever, right? Peach, arguably worst matchup in the game is Marth, right?
yeah.
And Fox, worst matchup in the game is Marth.
I think
And there's no way his secondary Fox could even touch Zane. Like it's just not gonna. It wouldn't happen. And then his Peach, like his Peach was having a hard time with Mutiki. You think he could handle Zane? Like, I don't know, man. I don't. I press X to doubt. Like I feel like it would have been bad.
one sec. Rio beats in the chat. So like then the way I look at it, right? Like if it only takes PPMD giving Mutaking a few notes, that Mutaking can go game 5 in Marth Peach, despite Mutaking never really playing that much towards like the end. Like you have a guy that's like grinding the hell out of the game. Like I mean I wouldn't be terribly surprised if Armada took like a best of 5, but like if I would put 3-1, 4-1 odds on Zane.
Yeah, and obviously Armada would get better too. He might even have to pick up a new character, right? Like,
Is this
but
Fox winning? Like,
his Fox just wouldn't win. I really don't think. I mean, maybe if he made it better and better and better, and like that became his like solo main eventually and transitioned. But I just like, dude, he would have a hard time. And this is crazy because we're talking about the greatest player of all time.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm in my head, I'm like, nothing we saw from him tells me that he wouldn't get just mollywop. And this is like one of my. I love Armada. I'm a huge Armada fan. I miss the man.
Yeah.
But there's you cannot look at the VODs of like the Marth Peach gameplay and look at Zane now and be like, yeah, that Marth would have just destroyed that Peach. Like it's just not true. Like it would not be. I don't think it would be. Maybe he'd take a set. I don't know, like a few sets, but overall it'd be like 90-10. I don't think it'd be close.
Yeah.
So sure, against Mango's a lot better now.
Yeah. But like Armada still has FD, right? And like having a best of 5 set where like one stage is going to be like 75-25 is like huge, right?
Also, Mango's better now as Falco. He hasn't been training as Fox.
Yeah.
And like, okay, so Mango had already kind of gotten a lockdown on Armada's Fox near the end, right? Like pretty much Armada wasn't going Fox against Mango because Mango's just it's not gonna be close, right? So it became Peach Fox usually, right? But Mango's Fox hasn't been playing that much, so I think he'd probably do okay against Mango still.
I
right?
think that's like a toss up, right? Like I don't think the matchup as a whole evolved significantly much between like Peach and Falco, that like Armada just with a few adjustments would probably be up to par.
Well, I mean, would Mango go Falco?
Yes,
You
he
know,
would.
like, well, if he would, then I still don't know, right? Like, I don't know. Then maybe it's Armada favorite if even.
Yeah.
I don't know. Prime Armada, like, it's hard because I feel like Mango's gotten so much better that I want to give him credit, right? But Prime Armada is pretty goddamn good.
Yeah. This is Prime Armada, like so, and even then, like, what was it 2018, 2019 Armada? Like, I forget when the year he exactly quit. Like, he wasn't. I don't think he was in prime form at that point. And then you look at the field, right? Like, I think universally, like, we put random top 5 to 20 player against Armada that isn't like Leffen. We go like, okay, like this player has like a 2% chance of winning. Like, I think that has shifted to like 5 to 10%, right? Like if you put none against Armada, right? Like, do you think he takes more sets now, right?
Yeah, but that's none. None is like if you actually think about it, like we have to stop and think sometimes because it's hard because Slippy is and this online era has made it tough. Like there's a great argument to be made that none is better than Plup right now, right?
Yeah, he is.
Like
and at least in online, he's better. in my opinion.
Sure. And if that's the case, then a Nun loss wouldn't even be that bad. Armada could still be a top 3 player in the world and lose to Nun occasionally.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't use Nun as the example. The question I would ask is like, would Nun lose to would Prime Armada lose to have occasional losses to the Gingers of the world, right? Like really solid player, like in the top 15, 20, whatever. And I don't think he would.
I mean, I
I don't
think the
think
number shifts, right? Like, because I think saw the tail end, like Armada having more and more close calls, where like another 2 years kind of does change things. Again, this is the point. Like Armada's still top 3, like, and even only losing 5 to 10% of the sets is still incredibly good. Like, who else can really boast that kind of like level of consistency? Where like,
Sure.
um, like Armada's Peach was struggling with like Dewan Sheik, Pleb Sheik. So like I do think with the continuation of like more standard play, like the Sparks and the face rolls of the world, that they would figure out certain matchups.
You think face roll would beat Armada? Nah. No.
I mean,
don't
Armada
think
would
so.
just play Fox, right? And he would like 3-0 face roll, right?
It would. Yeah, it would. No. You see SFAT still beating Spark, right? That's still a thing.
It's like
You think
going to game.
Armada's losing?
It's like going to game 5 now, right? The point being, like, it's
Okay,
not
sure.
like it hasn't shifted. I'm never.
Dude, no, Armada would beat Spark, bro. Like, come on. Like, we gotta be real with it a little bit. Armada would beat Spark pretty much every time. I'm not even sure if like he picked up a controller now without practice, if he wouldn't beat some of the guys we're listing, you know.
Yeah.
And I say that as not a diss on those guys. It's just like this is Armada we're talking about. Like we're talking about the greatest player of all time.
Even again, like I'm not
we're
saying
talking
like,
about God who like come on, who are we talking about right now?
I'm not saying like it's like a 50-50. I'm saying it's like we've gone from 0 to like 3 to 5%, right?
No, I still think it's 0, bro. I think you're
think
wrong.
It's 0?
I think it's 0. Yes. You think that Captain Face Roll has a chance in hell against Armada's Fox?
Not Armada's.
No!
No. Just to clarify, I was saying Armada's Peach.
I don't think he has a chance in hell against Armada's Peach. I don't think he has a chance. No, and I say that with all due respect. I think Griffin's gotten so much better. I think one day maybe like you're talking about the greatest player of all time. Like there's what in Captain Face Roll's career tells you that he could touch a greatest player of all time level.
I mean, Face
right?
Roll 6-0ing Mewtwo King.
Is Mewtwo King was Mewtwo King ever as good as Prime Armada during that 6-0 set? No.
I mean, but like I think you're underestimating like Face Roll like here.
I don't think I am. I say this like I think he's amazing. And I think he's like gonna get really good and keep getting good, really good. And same with Spark. Like a lot of these people were listening. I think they're amazing.
How about Wizzy?
I think Wizzy would take sets. Yeah, absolutely. But I don't think he'd maybe I don't know. Wizzy's tough.
Yeah, I mean the other part here is right. Swedish beat Armada, and like you're making it sound like Swedish Delight is significantly better than Spark or like Face Roll, and I don't think that's the case.
I don't think that's the case. But also, you're literally listing one best of 3 loss in fucking a 15 years, like a 10 year, in a 10-year span.
Again, like that's like what the 3 to 5% is, right? It's not. We're not.
But dude, one best of 3 loss in 10 years is not 3 to 5%. That's like 0.01%. that's like my guy didn't lose. You know, like come on. And that was a close one too.
Yeah, but like I think Face Roll and Spark are way better than what Swedish was in that year. And so like again, like it's not I'm arguing for just a few percent. I'm not arguing that they're like a 20% chance. I'm arguing that they're 3 to 5, which is like a 1 out of 33 chance. That's quite big.
I think a 5% chance is in Melee. So I was talking to my boy Sham too, who was like, I posted something about unranked or whatever. I was like, dude, I lose way more games to Sheik and Falcon than I do against other characters. But I like talk about like, I still win 70% of my games ish. But like it's annoying that like I like literally don't like I go entire days without losing an unranked game, and then when I face against a Sheik or a Falcon, it's like fuck, I could lose this, right? And he was like, dude, 70%, isn't that like really good? In Melee, if you're better than someone, like Armada like you saw friendlies, right? Like he'd have 100 friendlies against someone who's top 20 level, and he would not drop one.
Yeah,
right. That's normal in Melee. Right. So when you say 5% for guys like that, I'm like thinking back to how I saw Armada play 100 friendlies with people and not drop games. I'm like, that doesn't sound like 5% to me. That sounds like 0%.
Okay. Well,
Right.
then like I have to regret
And
the
you're talking
framework.
about, and you're also talking about best of five. You're saying them taking 5% to take a best of 5 set. So you're
Yeah.
not asking them to take 5 games in 100. You're talking them to asking them to take 3 games in 5.
Yeah.
So it's like, to do that, you have to at least in like the games in general have like a 20-30% win rate on each individual
Right.
game, like to even do that
I mean,
occasionally.
here's like my other argument though. Like the logic here, like there have been so many sets that like were just on pins and needles, right? The S2J Genesis set, like Axe, took him to game 5, right? Like I think with like 2 years of extended practice, like I have to think that like that pushes them over the edge in those kind of sets, right? Where like Armada leaves with like 4 additional losses if each of those players have an additional like 18 months of grinding. Like I don't think that's like an unreasonable like jump to make.
But why? Like, so here's the
Like
thing, right?
S2J
Like,
was one stomp away from winning that set 3-0.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so here's the thing I'd ask, right? Like, I do agree that like there people do get better, and I think overall you could argue that people have gotten better, but we did just go through losing a lot of really talented people, or seeing a lot of talented people be far less motivated, right? Notably the Florida people, right? The Muti Kings, the Plups, HBox, and I guess Wizzy's just always sort of inactive, but like still seems to play well. So Wizzy's a weird guy. But like, so that happened, right? That can't be good for the overall strength of the top 10. So the question I'd ask is, in 2019, if you asked me, if you took the top 10 active players of at the end of 2019 and you put them in a crew battle against the top 10 active players in 2018, I would have probably said the top 10 in 2018 would win the crew battle, right? And I don't think anyone would have disagreed with me, because in 2018 you would have had Armada and Mutaking, like, so, and you would have had like, sure, some people would have gotten better by end of 2019. So like the point I'm trying to make is, like, you gain some, you'll lose some, right?
Yeah.
The sure, you could say, if you make the statement that Melee and the player base and the skill level is higher than it's ever been, okay, on average, sure, but at the top level, is what is gained by, let's say, Captain Face rolls 18 more months of grinding enough to offset the fact that you lost fucking Armada, right? And so on average, would that make it so that you can say, if you took the top 10 players right now and you face them against 2018's top 10, would they win a crew battle? And I still don't know if I would.
So
Right?
I think in that case, right? Like I think you and Drug Fox actually do agree with each other. Like if you guys
No,
were to talk
because
apple to
I think Zane is the best player we've ever seen.
yeah, yeah.
And I think Mango right now is better than that version of Mango. And I think, like, so I think basically what I'm trying to say is, I think it's like I think the ranks 4 through 10 have gotten worse, like, on average, right? Like, I still can't tell you if I think that, um if we filled out our list, like, Amsa's right now in Japan playing net play. Is he better now? I don't know, right? Like, I can't tell you that answer. Lev can't do much right now. Like, or have they actually gotten better than 8 months? Because they can't do very much. So there's like all the international players who might not have actually gotten better in this time. And then you have to ask, like, okay, we lost a lot of players. So were there replacements like good enough to feel good about our chances in the crew battle? And the answer is mixed, right?
Like I
Am I
think
really
none got
feeling
way.
like
I think none got way better.
none got way better?
Oh,
But is he
okay, okay,
like
okay.
enough? Is he enough to offset like having a Mewtwo King on one side or an invigorated Plup? Because Plup got worse, right? Like, I think 2018 Plup might beat 2020 Plup. So that's like a factor. Some players got worse.
All right. To put this out of speculation, right? Let's actually like look at like who like reps like the top 10, right?
And HBox got worse, right? Like, so on one hand, you have Armada, like prime HBox. You got a better Plup, right? Like, you have a Mewtwo King. And on this side, you have, okay, sick. You added IBDW. That's like a major big hitter you added. None got a ton better. Wizrobe is now stronger. And then you have
Ginger.
a monster. You have a monster in Zane in that 10-person crew battle, right? But like, again, it's hard for me to know if 2018 top 10 would lose, because that's a lot of stuff on one side, right?
Yeah,
Like
I think.
they wouldn't get washed. Like you think Prime, HBox, and Armada are going to get washed? I don't think so.
Yeah, that's true. I tend to agree. I do think that 11 through 20 today will crush 11 to 20 back then. And the reason why I say that is that the people in 11 to 20 have still relatively grinded and they're struggling this meta because the people that are working smart and grinding are like surpassing them, right? And it's not that like that tier player has like stopped grinding, like the SVETs, the Luckies of the world, right? Who, but like I just think
Yeah,
that tier just got way better.
I think 11 to 20 did get better. I think that's true.
Yeah,
I think basically what we're saying is I think the top 3 or 4 players are the best we've ever seen. I think the 11 through 20 are the best 11 to 20 has ever been. It's 5 through 10. We lost some really talented people, and people are catching up to maybe some people's former forms. So it's hard to say, and so that makes a 20 versus 20 crew battle. Yeah, I take 2020 over 2018. 10v10. I don't know, man. One side's got Armada and HBox that gives a shit. So that's pretty good.
yeah.
So I don't know. That I think you might be right. Maybe me and Drug Fox have more in common than I think. But at the same time,
So I think it's a
it,
semantic issue then, right? Like I think Drug Fox is looking at this as like what is like the top doing, right? And if he's saying that the collective skill level of like the top 5 hasn't gotten much better, then he's right and you agree with him. And if Armada thinks the same way, then you guys all agree with each other.
maybe. But I don't think I would say the collective of the top 5. I'd say you'd have to say top 10.
Top 10. Okay, that's
The,
fair.
the I think literally if I'm sitting here and I say that if you took Prime Armada and put it against Prime Zane, like Zane right now, I honestly think Zane would wash. Then I do think like that's a big difference. You take the number one. It's a wash. It's a big deal. I think HBox right now, you put him against IBW. I think IBW would still do well. Leffen, it's who knows, question mark. Mango's better now. Like so overall, yeah, the top 5 is better now for sure. They're pretty sick. They're good, they're really good, and they've been grinding, getting better. So for sure. But yeah, we lost a little bit of depth in our top 10.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think what was it? The good limits tests I have are like how good is the field relative to Pew Pew, SVAT, Shroomed, and Lucky. I think those are like the litmus test players, right? Like
Yeah.
did the meta evolve? Like are more people beating them, right? Because I think they're improving a little bit, and I think like having a little bit more structure to them would.
But that's assuming they're staying the same level. PPU's gone worse. Like very obviously, right?
Yeah, but like he's
Like
more or less like playing like to the like relatively speaking, yeah, he got worse, but like he still like plays the game roughly to the same amount he has, right? And a lot of things he's got away with back then, like
no,
players
he's
are.
not. He's Tavo. He's not going to tournaments. Like you have to remember, like Kevin never grinded the game that much, so his most number of hours played came at events.
Yeah, but like
So if you're not going to
okay,
events, he is playing less. Like I would wager this is the lowest amount of hours played he had this year than like previous year. Like I'd love to ask
actually,
him,
I know
but
for a fact this. Look at PPU's tournament attendance. It's not that high, even in 2017, 2018.
it never was. It never was that high, but it's still something, right? It's still like 30, 40 hours on any weekend, on a given weekend, right? And so you add that up over like, let's say he go to like 20 tournaments in a year, 15 tournaments in a year.
He
That's
went to
still,
like 7.
God damn it, Kevin. The fuck? Okay, well that's still 210 hours,
Yeah, I think
right? That's the,
he plays a decent amount. He probably plays like 30 hours a week.
yeah, I mean, when we say people aren't playing, guys, you have to understand, they're professional Smash players. They're still playing. We're just talking about like versus like you guys are watching like IBW, like drop in 8 hours, 10 hours on a daily, right? Like we're talking about grinding like a professional gamer, right? Like it like to that level.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
still grinding, but not like to like the balls to the wall next level stuff.
yeah. Um, it's gonna be interesting, right? I think in a future episode, like I think when we get to, um, watching all 4 of the Slippy League, we could probably like think of like an NA online top 10. And I think that question would be interesting to explore. What do you think about the Slippy format, by the way, or the Slippy? I don't know. It's called SCL, Slippy Champion League.
I
Like,
mean, overall, I think it's really good. It borrows from a lot of like stuff I've seen in sports and other esports. Smart. Only thing I disagree with it on is I don't think the top seed should be able to choose their opponent.
yeah,
Um, I think that's really bad. I get where it comes from. So like in Brood War, you the top seeds choose their opponent. Um, like often that's like often like a thing they do for drama and whatever. But like they only have 3 races in Brood War, and if that's the, if StarCraft races are the equivalent to melee characters, like roughly, a lot of those matchups are 50-50 in that game, and whereas in melee that's not true. So like let's say someone like Slug, goes in and makes it in with ICs, great. Like he gets counterpicked like on his first match. Like it just doesn't make sense,
yeah,
Like like okay, great. The Fox makes it in. All right, Zane picks him. Like great, congrats. I just don't think it makes it so that you see the worst match possible consistently. And
yeah.
I don't understand why
And
you do
I
that.
think it becomes a huge struggle, right? Because like the Division 2 people are gonna probably like, the majority of them, and I know Ginger like qualified into Division 1. Like there's gonna be certain scenarios where constantly like you're gonna just see people hover Division 1, Division 2, Division 1, Division 2, just because like they can't progress past that because they have to play against a mega counterpick to like not get relegated out of Division 1. So I think that sucks.
Correct. And also, like, we'll just never see a lot of matchups that we otherwise would. So, like, we're never gonna see Zane Axe, right? Axe has been uh going between Division 2 and Division 1 now. You think Zane's gonna pick Axe? No. Right? Like, so we're just not gonna see a set that I think we all want to see. So I don't know. I think we're gonna see a lot of the same sets through it. Now it's a 4-week format, and also they could change that aspect of it. It's like a very easy change. Just don't do that, right? Make it a random draw, make the random draw hype. It's fun. So we have something to look forward to. And then that way, it's a little more entertaining. But I think overall, the format and what they're doing, it's great.
Yeah. What do you
Yeah.
think about like the quality of play so far in the first 2 weeks?
Oh, really good. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you think either any of these weeks will be won by either anyone but Zane or Mango?
I'm just like thinking out loud like who in the field is a threat to Zane? Like who would win like more than 20% of the sets against Zane?
I would say Axe, but they're not playing each other next week, and they're probably not playing each other the week after that. And so we only have 2 more weeks to go. So it's like it's pretty much just Axe
I'd say maybe
and
Plup.
okay, maybe. Question mark, maybe. Maybe IBW can take a set. I am doubtful.
I don't think he takes
Um,
a set.
I don't think it takes a so, and then like Mango, could definitely do it.
Yeah.
So, and if
So
Mango's doing it, it's probably in grand, so that doesn't
okay.
really work
So
with
the
this.
only
So,
scenario I really see is like if Mango beats Zane in semis with how the bracket could potentially pan out, and then like Mango loses to like non Plup Hungry Box. Like that's like the like only scenario I can really see where that ends up happening.
people in chat are saying Wizzy, and I think they need to start watching what Zane's been doing to Falcon lately. Falcon's getting real bad. Marth Falcon,
Mhm.
Zane's getting real good at it. So I don't know, guys. I don't know if the
I
Falcons
don't
can do it.
think, yeah, like I don't see how Wizzy gets past either of them. And granted, like none did beat Mango, like in Falcon Falco. I
Mhm.
just watch how the matches go in Wizzy Mango, and like Wizzy just doesn't have the right approach to beating Mango consistently enough.
Uh, yeah. I think Mango's so good right now. That I'd always favor Mango there. So what's your answer? Is it yes? Are those two going to win all the weeks?
I mean, what's the matchups next week? Do we know? Do we know for week 3? Like,
I think we do actually
do we know how the brackets work?
because they picked them right.
Okay, so Mango and Zane are on the other sides of the bracket.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't think Plup gets past IBDW, so IBDW
exactly.
plays Plup,
Zane's
probably beats him.
Zane's making grands guaranteed in this one. He's got Zane Azel, and then his next round is IBW Plup. Cody's going to probably be Plup. Okay, so maybe IBW beats Zane. Probably not. So Zane making grands is extraordinarily likely next week.
You know what's crazy here? Wizard Hungry Box back in like 2016 was like a grand final set. They're playing in relegations,
Mm.
like in Division 2. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Like they're in Division 2. this next year.
Division 2 players, LOL.
Yeah.
LOL, bro. And also on the other side, Mango face roll. Really, I mean, I can see Mango not making it to grands this time. I mean, none just beat him, right? And
We just say that Nuns kind of had S2J's number like in the past like year? Like I
dude,
don't
none's
remember
getting
the
so much
last
better.
time that S2J has been None.
He's getting so much better. Um, so like I think
Yeah,
people
let's
gotta
talk
keep.
None. Let's talk None. Like
Yeah,
I don't think anyone's like talking about him.
he's insane right now. He's really good. We might have a top 5 Falcon player, and it's just going under the radar because this online situation and COVID situation. But like, yeah, none's getting stupid right now.
I think what's like really impressed me is that like Nun's like planning to like scare the shit out of you into a secondary like panic option, and in punishing that has been
Mm-hmm.
so good. Like his movement and how much threat space he has with like his like short hops, his like movement, his drifts, like in his aerial positioning, like it always feels like he's reading like the next thing you're going to do before you do it, and he's like consistently doing it.
So I said this before. I don't remember when, but I think a player like None is literally the player in the world who is the most advantaged by something like unranked coming out. And the reason for that is, um, he of all players, like his job, his style is to put fear into your heart, right? And to overwhelm you and run you over with a character that's like you wouldn't even think is like trying to do that, right? Like it's not like he's playing a spacey or something, but he's going for it, right? Um, and the thing is like if you play a lot of people worse than you, you'll get really really good at that.
Is
Like
Nun number
you'll get,
four? Is Nun number 4 right now?
dude, he might be. That's crazy. Is it so you're saying we're saying well, the thing is we don't know where Leffen is, right? So
Okay,
forget about it.
and the people that can play any events is Nun number 4, right?
So we're saying Zane 1, 2 Mango, 3 IBW, 4 none.
Yeah.
Yeah.
None definitely has to be above HBox at this point, right?
I mean, yeah, I mean HBox is a Division 2 player, bro. You're talking about Division 2 player right now. Um, yeah, no, I think it's probably like if you're gonna weight that, I think Nunn's probably fourth right now. Like all what we're talking about specifically, like who do I expect to win and do well in online tournaments at the moment? Yeah, probably like the guy I'd pick is Nunn at fourth. So that's insane,
Actually,
right?
None might actually be 3.
He could be three. Like, is it more likely to me that Nunn wins a tournament than IBW? Maybe, you know. Um, Maybe. Nah, probably not. Dude,
Actually, I
Cody's
think
really good.
None might be number 3 right now.
Yeah, Cody's really good though.
Yeah.
Cody's gotten schnasty.
Cody's
Schnasty
good.
with
Like I think you could debate both. Like I think IBW None you can make the case for either or.
Yeah. So point is that that's like a 3-4. That's actually pretty close. So yeah, I don't know. Mango might not make it to the end this time. But I think it's very likely, very, very likely we still see Mango Zane again grands. And if they stay as top seeds at least, so if Mango beats Face Roll and Zane beats Azul, they pick their next opponent. So they're probably going to make the semis and then the following week. So I don't know. I think it's odds on that Zane and Mango sweep all 4 weeks. And I wouldn't be surprised personally if it ends up being 1 week Mango, 3 weeks of Zane. I think Zane might win 3 in a row.
Yeah. I think
Because
by
this
far
bracket looks great for Zane, right? Like this is like
Spacey,
and then like come on, man, you're just giving him the world.
Spacey, and it's. I think the did you ever watch the Rishi video about like playstyles and melee or like how different people approach the game?
I maybe I did, but I don't
Oh,
think I did.
it's actually a really good video, and
Oh wait, the body brain, that one, like the
yeah,
Korea Gaming like rip off a little bit.
yeah. I think like I think the good thing, and I think Rishi highlights something really important about Zane is like once like Zane figures out like a matchup, like he like doesn't get like he just stays at that baseline like for a really long time.
I mean, I think it was Nintendo that I was talking about this with. The thing that freaks me out about Zane, it's literally creepy. So I'm in his chat all the time, right? Because I'm just a little fanboy.
Yeah,
And mostly because I'm just learning about Marth and it's fun, right? And like I say, hey man, you could have done this in this situation, right? I was like, hey, Zane, don't forget to shield breaker here. Don't forget dash attack here, or whatever. I make my little contribution to the Marth meta, right? Like I'm trying to help out. I'm low key coaching Zane for 8 hours a day
Oh
for
God!
free right now.
Stop!
Low,
Stop!
it's
Stop!
it's it's low key. It's low key. But anyway, right? So that's going on. But what freaks me out about it, Tafo, and I've never seen a player like this because I've given players advice
All
and
right,
stuff.
I need 10 subs
But
right now to listen to Blur feel himself, or else I'm ending the stream.
no, hear me out. Hear me out. Hear me out. Uh, the thing that freaks me out about Zane is that literally after I say it, or after someone gives a suggestion in chat in general, he literally is able to implement it on the next match or the next interaction, like right there, right? I have never seen a player like that in my life. Usually, you have one of two things. Number one, you have the players who just won't listen to you, Mango, or of that ilk, right?
I would
Or you have
not
the
know
people who,
anything about that life.
or the people who will nod after you hear what you said, agree with you, try to implement it, and it takes them like they just they can't get it in there the same way. Like it's just not. They forget to do it or something. You know, it's not the same thing. Zayn literally implements new things to his style like nothing. Like he just starts doing it. It's weird. It's crazy.
I actually
God
did
damn it,
get
Zeb.
10 subs.
He did get 10 subs.
Thank you, Matt. Zeb. Um, so Mango and I, when we're at lunch, we talk about what a perfect human being Zane is. He's funny, he's charming, he's handsome. There's nothing that you can hate about Zane.
It's bullshit, isn't it?
Yeah, he's like the perfect human being.
No. You know what's bullshit? I was the Red Marth who went to a Virginia school, who played in Cypher's basement, who, played really flashy and cool, who is brown and, like very popular, very eccentric, whatever. The fuck? Bro? What is this shit, dude? Why does the universe have to roll the dice this way? This is some bullshit. I'm so pissed. I'm so fucking pissed. I don't understand. Why can't I be the one that got good? This is bullshit.
It's you passed your prime.
It's such. I hate it, man. I'm bitter. But yeah, no, it's dope. And I think for me, I think that he's doing a lot to inspire people. At least for me, like the two guys I look at is IBDW and Zane as like they're legitimately. It's funny because it's the youth who gives me hope sometimes.
Yeah,
Where like for me, it helps me like stay inspired to grind because you're just like, dude, they did it. They just straight up did it. And like, okay, you could be behind, and people could be better than you, but you can figure them out, and you could actually do it. And I think it's a source of inspiration for pretty much everybody. I think the whole scene talks about it and uses it as an example of how like, okay, it can be done. It can be done because as hard as Melee is, it can be done.
I think here it's like it's good, right? Because it just kind of shows that Melee is timeless and that like the gods that we heralded, in the era of 2013 to 2017, like over time things change, people get better. I remember a line from the documentary where PC Chris said like people evolve, people get better, and you don't have your reign forever. So I think it's good. I feel like Melee is in a good spot with the new upcomers, and I feel that the people who are grinding and studying the game and grinding, like those are the players that are rising up in the net play era, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, man. Melee, baby. It's the greatest game of all time. If you got, I mean, I know everyone in this chat and everyone who watches this video already plays it, but always spread the joy.
I think I have some Tetris fans that like are fans of Tafo and not so much Melee. I think the other parts, shout outs to like people. Ginger, has been quietly climbing, right? Like top 50 for a while, top 30
Mm-hmm.
pre-COVID. Now he's like comfortably probably top 10. I think he's been like a poster child for what like hard work and grinding really gets you.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
who are other players? Aklo. I've been really impressed by him. Ben, the Sheik player. Um,
Mm.
Azel. Like, there's a bunch of names that are coming up, and they look really good. And I'm really impressed by how clean their gameplay is.
Yeah, and even old names, seeing them still, try and care. Like even people who aren't necessarily getting great tournament results or whatever, just seeing um, people getting more invigorated about the game at all levels. That's like this. That's the stuff, man. That's like what you love to see. So I'm happy about it. I hope beyond hope that this HBox thing is temporary. I don't think we could take losing another all time great. Like I don't want to have to deal with that.
Yeah,
Do that. We lost too many. Like give us a break. Like if you're gonna do it in like a year or two.
yeah.
Don't do it right now.
I
Not
think
during COVID.
I
Like
think
don't do
one
it right now.
I think one thing to note, right? People like 2016, 2017 seeing like Hungrybox thrive and win, and they thought it was bad for the game. I think Hungrybox is like he needs to be a part of the picture, right? Because the other end of the spectrum is G Fox with it, where five of the top six players were Foxes, right? And people weren't excited to see that. I think you need to have parity between the characters to like make it.
Trust
really
me, you don't want too many Foxitos. Trust me. Like
Do
I've
you remember
commentated
that
those
tournament?
updates. It's not that. It's not that fun.
Yeah,
Like it's just not, man. And like I like Fox and I like Fox Dittos, but you don't want the same matchup every time. And I tweeted about this. Like, there's been a little less diversity, sadly, in the characters as of late. It was cool to see Slug do it. I mean, he did it in the with a non-wobbling ICs do it. That's cool. He did it in matchups where like you know those aren't the problems. Like he didn't actually face a floaty, but it's cool. I'm happy to see that.
and he beat players
But
that are experienced in the Ice Climbers matchup too. Very experienced.
yeah, absolutely. Of course, fast fall matchups are like the nerf by removing wobbling isn't as drastic. So nonetheless, he still clutched out, did some Sopo stocks, made us feel happy about the whole thing. It was a cool thing to watch his run. So that's cool. But like stuff like that has been pretty few and far between. And it's been like 4 or 5 characters for a little bit now, especially if HBox drops off the map. It's going to be the same.
Yeah.
So I hope that's not what the future we're looking for, because the truth is it's not like the characters got figured out. It's like we ban wobbling, like certain players retired. Like I think it was just a lot of like circumstantial stuff. Like I don't think it necessarily, except for some case, like Ganon's actually just trash, as an example. But most of the characters, we're not seeing them because of like, let's say Hugs is inactive or whatever. Like it's not necessary, or Duck retired. It's not like I don't think Samus can't still be good. Samus is fine, just as viable as before. Not going to win a tournament, but still going to be pretty good.
Good like top four potential, I feel like.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And Amsa being in Japan, we're not seeing Yoshi as much anymore. So it's a lot of Falcon, Marth, Fox, Falco, some Sheik like sprinkled in. This has like been every match, which is cool. I like those characters and I like melee. But I haven't seen a floating match in so long. I feel like, come on, give me a floating match one
Yeah,
time.
we should, if we're ever gonna do a pitch, we should have fun together money and pull for Triff to come in.
Yeah, for sure. It does. It is a thing that like a lot of the best players of those other characters are international. So that does skew things.
Yeah, I think the one last thing I just remembered as I was watching the sets: watch a 2020 set and watch a 2018 set. Players are just faster. I think is the other thing I noticed.
Yeah. I think for sure. Like they're just doing different techniques than they used to. Like Moki's pretty fucking fast, man. As an example.
Yeah, Moki
Like
retired
in,
me officially.
did he? How?
The last term was Genesis 2019, Genesis 6. I played Mutant King of Winners. I was pretty close. 2 1 stock matches. I dropped a chain grab, which ended up making me lose both games. I beat Bonfire 10. I beat Ralph in losers, and then I was like, okay, like to make top 64, I just need to just beat Moki. Moki lost.
You beat Ralph? What? You beat Ralph? What year was this?
2019.
Jesus Christ, Tafo.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I play Moki, and I'm like, this guy is like a caffeinated squirrel. He moves so fast, and he just can't get hit. And then I got double 3-stocked.
So you're saying he retired you in the tournament that you beat Ralph and Bonfire and all these good players?
Yeah.
You got no heart. Your heart is elsewhere, bro.
Dude, no,
Your heart's in
after
League of
I
Legends.
lost to Moki.
I don't want to hear. You literally are telling me you like fucking woke up out of bed with your rusty ass, and you beat some damn good players, and after the tour, you were like, oh shucks, I guess I'm just not good enough anymore. I hate you. I hate everything about you. I don't like it at all.
Uh,
It was like better wins than I've ever had, Tafo. Fuck you. I fucking hate you, bro. Like,
so
I don't
low
like it at
key,
all.
that was shortly after Ultimate came out, right? If you watched the first set of the day, I played against who's that Georgia Peach that was like old school. Still posts on Twitter from time to time.
Are you talking about Ziff?
Yes, I played Ziff. Look at that was the same tournament. I played my tech skill was so bad. I like SD'd and like in my first tournament set of that day, I SD'd 6 times and I almost lost to a random fox because like I couldn't ledge dash onto the stage from the edge.
That's a problem. If you can't do that, you're gonna die every time. It's
Yeah,
bad.
I died 6 times in a set. I
Can
almost
I tell
lost.
you about? Can I tell you about some actual like human progress I'm making? I think this is like a sign that I'm growing as a human being for once.
Wait, aren't you already like
Um,
the peak epitome of perfection?
well, yes, of course, but that's the problem, right? When you are that and you know that, you don't ever watch your own VODs, right? So in my and this is how you know I don't deserve to have gotten better at this game. Um, in like the 15 fucking years or whatever I've been playing, I never watched my own VODs. I just didn't do it.
Wait,
Like to get better. I
what?
only watch I only watch my wins sometimes just to feel good about it. But for the most part, I didn't watch my VODs. Dude, my ego's too big, Tavo. Have you not known this about me? Like, does this not make sense to you? Would you think I would watch my own losses? Like I and feel
So
like actually like,
can I ask you something? Like when you lose, like what is the conclusion that you come up with? Because in your career you lost a lot of sets, right? Like what are you leaving with like when you drive home from a tournament?
um I'd feel like shit, and I would leave and never watch the set again because I don't want to feel like shit again.
Okay,
Like
have you ever
and that
rewatched your 2 sets against Moon Knight and Sea Rabbit?
I watched the Sea Rabbit one because I won. I didn't watch the Moon Knight one. Of course not. What the? Are you kidding me? Why would I watch that? Taffo. I'm not gonna. Okay, wouldn't even be a productive one to watch. But like, I'm not gonna do that, right? Like, so, no, I never. And here's the funny thing: is like people in chat have seen me analyze melee. We're just talking about Zane style, whatever. I've never even done that for myself. Like, I'll do that for other people, but like for my own gameplay, yeah, not gonna happen because I don't want to. I wouldn't watch my own VODs. Personal progress. I am occasionally watching replays of myself, getting disgusted and then closing the replay. And that's where I'm at right now. If I can get to the point, Tafo, with my uh knowledge of the game of actually watching myself and being able to coach myself, then I would stop wasting time coaching Zane and coach myself so I can beat these stupid players.
So what do you leave
Nice.
with in these sets now?
What do I leave with? I feel like I still during the sets I get a good takeaway, but then sometimes I rewatch, like literally even through rewatching 5 seconds, I'm like, oh, I just like played an entire game not caring about center stage. I should probably, you know, do that. That's
Did my
probably
random advice on Falcon and Sheik actually like give any insight?
not really. I mean, you can't really help making mistakes. I think that's like just the fact that I was always sporadic with practice. Like if I practice every day, I stop making mistakes as much. I think my problem with Falcon that I'm slowly figuring out is like an overall characters that if you give them too much stage, their movement is really oppressive.
Oh yeah.
So I need to first work on like take stage, then do your action. Don't
You
be a
have to
little
get
bit more.
Falcon to either stop their dash or shield. And I always say that
Yeah.
Falcon's like dashing is the equivalent of keeping your dribble in basketball. Like if you can remove that, they become extremely
Yeah.
limited.
Falcon's a trash character when he's cornered. Like literally, like you get a detailed on shield on a Falcon in corner. This is a garbage character.
Yeah. Or you get them
And
in shield.
or on ledge or like in general, like if I got center and Falcon can't, really like if he doesn't make me dash back and or make me go corner myself or whatever, then like he's not that hard. So yeah, stuff like that. Like so just prioritizing stuff like that. But yeah, I still like I'm not really like super doing it, but it's at least a little bit of progress to give me hope. What's up, Vicky?
Oh, hey, Blur says hi.
Oh,
So
hi.
Sup?
Hello, I can't hear you, but hello.
I said sup. Also, nice doggo. New dog.
Yeah, he's really cute. His name is Dumpling.
Dumpling. That's a good name.
Yeah,
I haven't heard that people make that as a pet name enough.
yeah. I think it
You know,
fits him. He's really tired though. He's an old boy.
you should know how old.
Uh, when we adopted him, they said he was 7, based on like his teeth. I think he might be
I
8.
see.
I don't know.
Well, he's a cutie.
Yeah. So I think we get to like the question that everybody's been waiting for tonight. Um, Armada Mango Goat discussions.
Oh, of course, of course.
So I think we
Uh,
universally agree. I don't think without. I think we're all on the same page. Melee, we all die today. Armada is the goat. No questions asked.
Mango even says it. Mango calls Armada the goat.
Yeah.
So I don't think anyone disagrees at this point. Armada's the goat. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
When do you like? What conditions is like? Because like it's the Jordan versus LeBron argument, right? LeBron's like adding year after year, right? And Jordan fans will go 6-0. And right, and like that's just the fact that LeBron has losses in the finals means that LeBron can't replicate certain aspects of Jordan's legacy.
I mean, I don't want to go into a basketball tangent, but that's a very stupid argument that basketball fans make. It doesn't make any sense. Why does finals record at end all be all doesn't? But so yeah, I mean, I think Mango can catch up. So first of all, Armada has a pretty significant lead on Mango.
Yeah,
but he's not adding any pages to the legacy anymore. And Mango is, and I mean it's a shame because I still don't know how much or at all we're going to count this COVID era as for those legacy discussions, right? And I think that harms Zayn the most, right? Like if he's the best right now, but he's not really getting counted, like how is that fair? Right? Like it's
yeah.
not very nice. Sucks for him, I guess. But like I think it depends on how long it is, right? Like if this COVID era like it's like a year and a half, I think we'll minorly count it. But if it's like 3 years, right, or 2 years or something like that, I think at some point we have to count it, you know. Um, and so I think it depends on the length of it all. But yeah, Mango's still adding a lot of legacy, and right now he's the second best player, pretty obviously. And I felt like near the end of last year, I thought Zayn and Mango were the two best players in the world already, right? Like I think Hungerbox was still ranked number one by the end of the year, but I didn't think he was the best player. He was already kind of falling off. Um, not quite to this level as he is right now, but like at least in land environments it was. So yeah, I mean, look, dude, if he just even just being second is pretty insane to add to your legacy. If he's just second for like let's say 5 more years, or if he gets first again, like if he has a little new another era, like if he has another era, he'll get GOAT again for sure. Like, even if it's like an 8-month era, like a 6-month era, if Mango's ever the best again for like 6-8 months, yeah, probably GOAT again, right? Do you
Uh,
think so?
yeah. I guess it comes down to right, like, do those like losses and like questionable performances permanently put a stain, right? And I think that's something like Armada is always going to argue as his legacy. Like even if Mango added 20 years to his career of like top 3, like Armada is still going to be able to hold and say like I was undefeated, like relatively speaking, in my era.
No, I mean longevity is. I mean, I'm a Tim Duncan fan, right? Like I think longevity is to me far more impressive, far more impressive than like okay, arbitrarily during this predefined period, your prime was slightly better, right? And okay, Armada's prime relative to Field was slightly better, maybe, than Mango's primes, but Mango's primes are pretty goddamn good too, right? Like when Mango was the best, he was clearly better than everyone else, just not as dominating as Armada was. And Armada's primes lasted longer, undoubtedly, and he was more consistent. But if Mango has like 3-4 years on him, um, and especially since like a lot of Mango's relevant results happened before Armada's because Armada came to the US at Genesis and Mango was already really good for a few years before then. So Mango's already got a longevity advantage to begin with. And then he adds like 2, 3, 4, 5 more years on top of that, where he's still a top player. Potentially, if he gets number one again, then yeah, he's better than him. Like for sure, he's the GOAT at that point. No,
Yeah, I mean, it's like
so
it's so hard to like argue these things, right? Like I think enough fans are basketball fans, and I think they love these comparisons. Like what point do you think like LeBron, like what does LeBron need to do, right, to like beat
LeBron's
Jordan?
still got probably still got to do a lot. Like he's got to the ring count is what most people would say. Just
So
to
if he
get
has
if
two
he gets
years
to
of number
six.
one, is that good? He's in an online era with like the bubble, right? How much do people like
Yeah.
value that?
Now that's the question, right? So okay, so to pose the question I asked earlier, if Mango has another era, i- only a 6 month era is what I'm proposing, where he's the best. Do you think he's the GOAT?
No,
No, really.
for six
I
months, I think
I think I was thinking maybe. Why not, dude? Mango's resume is already pretty good. It's not like the difference between the two is like insanity.
I think it needs to be like 1 to 2 years at least.
2 years, 2 years.
Yeah.
That's like doubling. Like, how long do you think Armada was the best in the world to begin with?
Well, let's actually examine this, right? Because everyone has different answers. I got people on Twitter saying that Armada had a 10-year reign, right? Which is obviously
He
wrong.
didn't. It's just not true.
All right, so like let's dissect this, right? 2015, obviously that was Armada's year. 2014, 2014,
No, that was more
Mango.
Mango. That's Mango.
2012, probably Armada's year. 2013,
Mango.
wait, 2012 was definitely Armada though, right?
2012
No,
was
did
Armada.
HBox win that year?
What was
Let me look this
2012? 2012 is the year
That was
before
the
Evo.
that was the cursed like first we've seen of like Young Link.
Let's just 2012 Armada. I think it was Armada 2012 probably.
Then again, like there were like 2 events that year, right? So like, how much does that like really impact things? Mango even doesn't really not is not really happy about 2012. All right, let's see this. 2012. I mean, he won Apex, and then he won the 4 other like melee tournaments. He beat PP at Smashers Reunion, right? There just weren't that many events that year.
Mm-hmm.
Was he at Pound?
So okay. So let's do a rough estimate,
Oh,
right?
2011 definitely. I think that's probably Armada.
2011 was wait, no, wasn't that Hungrybox?
I mean, Armada won Genesis 2, and he got second at Pound behind PB.
Yeah.
HBox wasn't quite that level yet.
Correct.
And then
correct,
in 2012, he did beat HBox at Apex. That was like the only event because no Evo existed, no summer event, and then he got first again at Apex 2013. I mean, it's like debatable there, right?
Also, we're giving him entire years off winning one tournament, because we're talking about a much smaller scene. So there's that, like, that does matter to a degree, right?
Yeah. We can give him a first
with
an asterisk. I don't know if it's like, as significant as like post Evo, like.
Yeah, post Evo Melee, and for me at least, I always think 2013 and on, and like in 2007 to 06, I also include those years. I think those years count the most.
Yeah.
Right. 07, 06, and then 2013 until now, with the exception of 2020, might count less just because of COVID. Those years count the most, right? Like they have to.
So
just
2013 was probably Mango. 2014 was, even though Armada and Mango went back and forth, like Mango won all the bigger, like the main events that year.
Yeah.
2015's Armada. 2016's probably Armada. Maybe HBox starts to come in that year.
It's 2017 that HBox starts flipping it around, right?
Yeah.
So okay, so Armada, we're talking about post 2013 years. He had 3 years.
15, 16? You can't count 14, right?
No, 14 is Mango for sure. So Mango, so that's not that. I mean, I don't know. Like, you're saying, man, give Mango 2 whole more years? No, that seems like he's fucking lapping him at that point.
I mean, the big thing is, right, also, like, let's take the degree, right? Like, Armada in his dominant runs, like, was winning, like, every event.
Plus,
Mango,
we're not even talking about Mango Puff. We didn't even talk about the old school dominance of Mango.
That's true.
Right? And, like, so you add that on, and that's, like, that's not nothing, right? Like, that's a lot.
But Armada has the head-to-head to all the top 20 players. Or the better head-to-head.
Okay. Grats. But he doesn't have any head-to-head against Modern Zane. So, like, that's still, like, like, he has a head-to-head for his era on those things, but like that's why longevity matters, right? Like Mango has put himself out there for so long in this theoretical example, right? Now, if Mango just retires in like 8 months and doesn't get number one again, yeah, he won't overtake him. But in the theoretical world, for me, if Mango has like a 6-8 month streak where he's the best in the world, yeah, no, 100%, he's the GOAT. Because I don't think the difference between the two is insane. Armada has a pretty insane leg up. Like we're talking about a situation where Mango stays a top player for a considerable amount of time more than Armada, and he becomes the best again. These are hard things to do, right? These are hard things to do. But if he does them, then like I don't see why not.
I think it's like, so I think a lot of people are saying like Armada's records, right? Like in the grand scheme of things, if like Mango goes like 1,200, like it's the common argument that you get in SSBM rank is somebody that's like 6-0, like there's similar corollaries here. Is somebody that goes 6-0 like better than a person that goes like 20-4, right? Like at what point does like having a small record of dominance outweigh a person that's generally been dominant for like a significantly longer portion? Do you value the person that went 110 or the person that went 11-0?
And I mean, you could also like be like, all right. So like if you go back to like old school guys like Ken, right? Ken had his record. Like we always talk about how Armada's amazing dominance over, people who were not in the top 10, right? Ken had a dominant record against the top 10, right? Like isn't that more impressive than anything else? Like if you're dominating your peers in the top 10 players in the world, that's insane, right? That's absurd. And so Armada kind of had both, but it wasn't like his record against Mango is evenish, for example. His lifetime's still good against HBox, but HBox was start to do better near the end for sure.
Here's one argument that sucks. You can't have your cake and eat it. And so Armada will say, oh, like I wasn't able to attend events because I was in Europe. Yeah, look at how dominant and inconsistent I am, even though I don't attend that many events. Like you can't argue both sides of that, in my opinion, right? You can't take credit for like how dominant you've been, even though you haven't been to events, and then use the excuse that you're not able to go to events.
Sure.
Like it's like me going on a small resume and saying like I'm undefeated against IBW and Rishi, right? Look at how good I am, and my hardships don't let me attend more events. Like you can take credit for one, but not both.
Right. I mean, I personally don't care that much about adding a ton of external factors in. Like one thing that you could say about Mango, for example, is that okay, if he becomes best in the world again, this is the big if. He will have become the best in the world with 3 separate characters. That's insane, right? That's a really big feather in the cap. But
also,
I don't know how much that
also LeBron analogy.
Right. But I don't know how much that fact like ultimately for me, it's a very strict equation of like years is number 1 or like at days, hours, whatever. Years number 1. Years as a top 5, years as a top 10, years as a top player in general, head-to-head records against contemporaries, like major championships won, like how many big houses did you win, how many Genesis did you win, how many Evos did you win, et cetera, et cetera. These are the things that really, really matter. Those other things are cool little anecdotes to show how good you've been, right? So like end of the day, like it very much is like LeBron Jordan, like you mentioned, because LeBron's also still adding to his script. Like LeBron could theoretically play top level for another 5 years, because he's just insane. And Mango could too, right? Mango could, if Mango's still a top 5 player 5 years from now, that's insane. That's literally insane. Like never before seen an esports level of insane, right? Like, so we're not. So when would you say Mango became a top 5 player?
Probably 08, right?
08, I assume, right? So that would mean in 5 years he'd be on year 17 of being a top 5 player. I don't think that's ever been done before.
Like you can even argue, and granted there were shenanigans. Like you can argue he was like anywhere from 4th to 7th in 07, especially towards the latter half, right? Got 3rd at Super Champ combo, 3rd at Evo, even though they're weird format things. Like you could argue that he is in that like top 10, top 5 range. Now would I outright give him top 5? Like no, but like he's on the cusp of it. You can make arguments that he's top 5.
Radar SSBM says is mentioning Flash. Yeah, but there's also a thing where like Brood War died for like hella years until like Africa and ASL. So it's not like I don't want to make a pure comparison there. I'm talking about scenes which were super active literally the entire time. But where I had a genuine dead period where like, I mean, who knows who's best? Like, no, there weren't tournaments, right? Not big ones at least. There was like Sonic for a little bit, but so and yeah, Flash is insane. So we're comparing Mango to, I would argue, the greatest gamer of all time in Flash, right? So if we're comparing Mango to the greatest gamer of all time, he's doing something right. Then he must be pretty fucking close to the greatest in our game, right?
Yeah. And I
So
think there was like there's almost a 2-year stretch where Mango didn't drop a set. I think as people like talk about Armada's dominance, like other than like the '08 set where he threw to Hugs and like by playing secondaries that weren't good at the time, like because he wanted Hugs to play Commaster in that one UCLA tournament, he didn't lose a single tournament in '08, and it wasn't until like November the revival melee in the end of the year in '09 that he lost a set. So that's almost 2 years that he didn't lose a tournament.
yeah, I mean it's pretty good. Now, again, we're like extrapolating on something that hasn't happened yet. Mango hasn't actually had the next 5 years as a top 5 player, and he actually hasn't had an era where he's the best again. And it'll be pretty goddamn hard because there's that dude Zane.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a lot there, right? That we're assuming. As of right now, Mango is not better than Armada, or greater than Armada in terms of legacy. But the point is that the scenario we're describing isn't far-fetched to me, right? He's already had 12 years as a top 5 player. What's to say he's gonna not have the next 5 be a top 5 player, right? Because to me, I just can't imagine a world where Mango is just bad at Melee, right? Like, is Mango gonna be bad at Melee next year? No. Is he probably gonna be a top 5 player? Probably. Yeah. Right? What about the year after that? Most likely, right? Like, so it's at least going to be a few years, probably. Like this guy's really, really good at Melee. He's really, really good.
I mean, based on lifestyles, right? Like we go to like 2015. Let's say 2014, right? Like all the gods are playing, right? Like would we have bet that Mango would be like one of the last ones standing out of the 5?
Yeah, I don't, dude. Again, it also another guy who could overtake Armada is HBox. So it really depends on if HBox is planning on, if he's gonna retire, if it's where his motivation goes, if he's gonna become a content creator, like what happens with HBox, right? Because I think the odds on money was like if anyone was going to overtake Armada, it would have been HBox, right? And you know what? It's not even impossible because Melee still has a lot of years left, for sure, for like a dude like Zane to do it, right? Like it's not impossible for like, or even a Plup. If like, what if Plup gets reinvigorated and becomes best in the world and like does like guys who are a lot of the modern players. It's weird. We have a weird situation right now. Like if you made a greatest of all time list, you have Mango, who is universally agreed as second best of all time, right? Greatest of all time. And then a lot of like active players like Axe, Zane, whatever, you'd put somewhere in the 8 to 15 range, right? And there's Leffen, who most would put like 6th or something, right?
Yeah.
So those guys have a lot of work to do to get to like the GOAT range. So really only HBox and Mango are in like punching range of Armada. Like they're the only ones who's like even close. So for the other guys to get it, for those other guys to even like be in the conversation, they need Melee to be around for like 8 more years, maybe more, right? They needed to be around for a long time. And it probably will be. So that's a good news for them. But the point is, it's not impossible for them to do it either, you know, considering I expect Melee to be around for quite a while.
I think the funny thing, like, and this is how you can tell that no one has had kids. Like, no one ever talks about how Mango literally had a baby and like went #1 that year. Like, no one ever talks about that. No one understands like how hard it is to have a baby, right? People are saying like, I was in Europe, perfectly valid. Like, it's perfectly valid, right? Traveling is a bitch. You know, people have their issues, but like I can tell that no one in Smash who actually talks about this stuff is like a parent, because no one is talking about how hard it is to raise a baby.
Yeah, I mean that's obviously very true. The thing I'm going to bring up now is I think probably less hard, obviously, because raising a child is insane. And also very cute kid. They have a beautiful family. So
yeah, he just turned 7.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. And so, and plus also just the level up in life, like the house, everything. I'm very proud of the guy. But also, like, we're seeing this with HBox. Like, it's not easy being a content creator and a pro player at the same time. Like, in esports, we rarely see it. Like, it's not easy at all to do both. And with like HBox is having, for example, a hard time juggling it. I think HBox's case is different because he's playing another Smash game in his content. So that makes it even harder. But in general, it's not easy. And so the fact that Mango's been able to do all this while still streaming and like putting out content, putting out YouTube videos, like effectively being a pro player and a pro content creator at the same time, like it's super hard. Like streaming is really hard. It takes a lot of hours and takes a lot of work. And he's just doing both, and it's like super impressive.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm so like because like I got him through his taxes. Like I figured it out. I got him a tax guy, and we're on good track. Like we're hoping for the long term. And I don't really know like what Mango's thing is. Like I think Mango's when JoJo starts becoming relevant in tournaments, I think that's when he jokingly told me he was gonna stop. We've had these conversations every year where he's like, I just have like one more year. And like even going back to 2016 when I was like coaching him, you know, we had all these talks. I'm just gonna play for one more year, 2 more years. He's been saying this for like the past like 5 years now.
I don't think he wants to quit at all right now. Right now, he's got a huge, as he would put it, melee boner. Right, like he's having a good time with it. Like he's able to stream, stay at home, and play melee, and like, that's his favorite game. So it's not like, and he also really likes playing the new people. So you know what thought was a awesome Mango comment. This is the only time I've ever heard him say this about anyone, including like the Armadas and HBoxes of the world, right? Like including like insane players in their own right. Mango made a comment once. It's innocuous, but it's like I think it's special, where he literally said, "You know, I'm pretty impressed with myself for just simply keeping up with this motherfucker." He was referring to Zane.
Yeah.
Right? And I thought that was, first of all, that's an insane compliment to Zane, right? Because you're talking about a guy who's been playing the game at a top level for like, we're talking about going on, you know, top level 12 years, but really like 15, right? Like in total his total playtime. And there's this new guy who is so good that Mango's the one who's like, oh man, I'm just glad I can keep up. You know, like that's an insane compliment to Zane just to say that. Like he's never said that about anyone. He's never said that about Armada. He's never said anything close to that kind of like thing where it's just like, damn, I can't believe I can even take games off this guy. You know, like effectively. But it also shows like where his mentality is right now, where like he's pretty fucking hyped that he's gotten this good and like is able to do it. And he's like, he gets pissed when he feels like he's not keeping up or as good as other people. And that's always going to keep him in there.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's like, I think it was a compliment to Zane, but also it was a compliment to himself where it's like, damn, he can. I am pretty impressed too. You know, like I'm pretty fucking impressed that he's been able to keep up for this many years. That's not easy. And it's very unique in esports.
Yeah. And I think that's like a really good, Zane plays an archetype that really is fun for Mango, right? We talked about fun a lot. Like Mango doesn't like playing players that play the same game plan over and over again. Zane adapts, you know, he has a little bit of his cheese, he has good mix-ups. So like I think as like Mango plays, like I feel like he's really mentally stimulated. Whereas when he plays Jason, like he's just like he'll tell me after friendlies, is like, I can't believe Jason just keeps doing the same option over and over again. And like my stupidity is me thinking that he's going to change after I punish it the 6th time in a row. Like he actually hates playing against Jason for that reason.
Yeah, and I mean also like Zane's willing to play against anyone. You know, like the whole thing of like he'll play anyone, take any challenge, whatever. I think Mango doesn't like wieners, so like there's a lot of like he likes what's going on there. And their matches and sets are really sick. And so, you know, there's mutual respect there, but I think really what it comes down to is just like on a pure gameplay perspective, he's seeing like melee grow and evolve and people get better and better. And you know, it's simply being able to take sets off a person of this skill. Like it is literally insane.
Yeah.
Like I can't emphasize enough how good Mango and Zane in particular, those two players are right now.
And like I have to
The
say, like
melee we're seeing is the best we've ever seen. It's so good.
And I have to say, like, if you guys haven't, I'm assuming 90% of the people who watch this on Twitch and YouTube have. Like, next time they play a session, just watch them. Just watch like the meta of like how they play each other, how they play the player, the options that they're doing, the development that's happening game to game. It is such a treat to watch.
Yeah. And you know what's cool about it? So first of all, we're currently in an era, and I said this on commentary one, where the meta's actually shifted pretty aggressive right now. First of all, we barely have floaties right now, randomly. Second of all, like in general, people have gotten so clean with their pressure and aggression that we have a pretty aggressive era. So there between that and the punish game, it's like the gameplay is getting very very clean and refined, which is dope. Um, so but then you have like this other X factor of like, so what separates the best right now? And the answer is very simple: creativity, right?
Yeah.
Like we just talked about Nun, Zane, Mango. That's like three of the most creative players of all
Yeah.
time.
And I
You
have
know,
to say, like, to add to this, like the tier below, right? We thought for the longest time Face Roll capped at like top 50. And then I think he had a conversation with somebody, I forget who, where he realized he had to play creative to get to that next level. And like when you watch Face Roll, you think of him as like a tech chasing Sheik, but like both him and Spark are incorporating a lot of really cool options, and their mix-ups are actually like better than what people give them credit for. And had they
right?
not been able to do that, like they would still be top 30 to 50 players. They would have not made that jump.
And so you speak of like, okay, maybe against he would play against Music and you'd be like, okay, well, I kind of know what's going on here. I just got to execute, right?
Yeah.
Um, but when he plays against like someone like Zane, he's like, dude, this guy could hit me with stuff I don't know, I've never seen before. Literally every other stock, and we all see it. Like, there's these guys are like freaking clip machines nowadays, right? Like, they get front page posts on Reddit like on a daily, because of some new thing that we're seeing all the time. And so some new creative way of doing it. Like we saw the last two stocks of a Sleepy Champions League of Nunn versus Zane. What the hell was he doing out there? You know, like it's ridiculous. Um, and so and Mango's always been that type of player. So like to see that part of the game express, I think is part of it. Um, and so yeah, no, I mean, um, I don't know. Like I just feel like the top two right now in particular, I think they're growing their lead a little bit. I think the two guys that are the best right now are
Yeah.
pretty ahead, and I think Zane is pretty gosh darn ahead. It's
Yeah.
starting to get he's starting to lap people because during COVID his work ethic is actually making that big of a difference, right? Like he's still working harder than ever, despite like the situation. And I think it's inspiring people to do that too. But you know the people who aren't, they're going to get left in the dust.
I think the interesting thing here is like to be creative, right? For the sake of being creative, we see a bunch of those people. Matt.Zeb, who gave me 10 subs, we'd say is a crazy player, but to be creative and consistent is a pure testament of how good your fundamentals are and how much you know the fundamentals that you begin manipulating and thinking a step ahead of everyone else.
Yeah, you can only be creative if your base is good, right? And so these guys are like so the core of their gameplay is so good that they're able to express themselves to like a beautiful degree. And sort of it looks like when you're watching the game that they could just do whatever the hell they want. You know, like it's like there's no limits. Um, and it's cool because like you know we all. In Mango's case, he was always a fan favorite because of the style where it's like, if Mango's playing well, no one can stop him. You can say the same thing about Zane, you know, like um, if it really feels like, oh, then
One sec, keep filling us.
all right, all right. So what I was saying is that it really feels to me, at least, that when Zane's playing well, it's basically unbeatable. Hmm. It's hard to fill when I can hear him. Anyway,
It's okay. So for context, we're remodeling our closets, so like, or like we're adding like, because it's just like a wire rack, so to maximize the space, like we had a person come in to do one of the closets. We still have like 3 more closets, and so Vicky wants to know what we're doing.
I feel you. Anyway, so overall, like I think like we're in for a lot of good Mango Zane stuff for a while. I think because I think they're considerably better than their opposition right now. Um, and that's exciting. That's really exciting. I'm down. I'm down to have like a whole year of that, personally. And I also think that like I'm there is also an outside chance that we have a situation of real dominance. Like I think Zane's not that far away from being like stupid dominant.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Um,
like, do you feel when like Zane plays that there's like an aura to him? Like, if like Ginger were up like 2 stocks to 1, right? Like, let's say like Zane's at like 60%, Ginger's at like 20% 2 stocks. Like,
dog, he's beating people with Roy, man.
yeah,
He's beating motherfuckers with Roy, and not just any people. You know, like he's beating like top 20 players, and like not just one time. This is like it's real, and it's like in bad matchups. Like really, and Roy's real bad. Like so, there's it's not it's just pure skill. So there's that, and then like even when he makes extraordinarily good players look like nothing. You know, like look so much worse than they like than him. Like and it shouldn't really. It feels like it shouldn't be possible. Like these players are so good. Um. So yeah, I think if he is able to prove that he can beat Axe, um, relatively consistently, and like maybe gets a few more wins on Plup, um, and he like wins 80-20 or something on Mango or 70-30 on Mango, then you should expect him to, because Mango's going to lose to other people occasionally, right?
yeah.
You should expect him to have a reign that like on orders that like we might never have seen before. Like he's so close to that level of reign. And it's a shame that so much of it is happening in this online era. So we don't really know.
You know what's like really sucks about all this? I feel like there was like a dethroning of like the top right for every era. Like Zane never got that opportunity with Armada, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I also think that there's the open question, right? Like someone it's Leffen again, poor guy. There's the open question of like, um, how would Leffen mix in here, right? Um, like just like one of the great questions of Melee is like, what would have happened if Leffen never ran into visa issues, right? Would he have become the greatest in the world, right? It's arguable that Leffen's never been the greatest in the world. If he has been, it's been for like a 2-3 month span,
Yeah.
right? And he was getting pretty good, and so it's like, damn, this guy gets screwed again. This guy gets screwed one more time. And you really think about how it would shake things up. I think it would probably, like, I can't tell. Like right now, I think it would help Zayn, at least until Leffen Sheik comes into form. But now Leffen Sheik might come into form by the time we're back. So like Leffen will never have to go through all those losses that he otherwise would get.
I think
So
the
who knows?
scary thing here is that like was like the best Marth that Leffen practices against, and if like Leffen's Sheik becomes a threat, then like he's just gonna like Zane's just gonna like call Plup, he's gonna call like Junebug, like, and he's gonna get like 10 times better practice than what Leffen does, right? If Leffen never
No,
does take a set.
Leffen's best practice is Zayn. They play. They do East Coast to Europe. Now, obviously, that's not perfect, but they're doing it, and they have good internet, and so it's they say it's okay, it's good enough. But I mean, I think that's super gracious of Zayn, to take those matches, right? He doesn't have to do that. If Leffen was just stuck in Europe with no, like, he'd have to go against like Maye or something. Shout out to my boy Maye, to like get a good Marth practice. There's no world where Levin could grind with the European Marth, with all due respect to them, and get good enough to beat Zayn. Like,
Yeah.
it wouldn't happen, right? So I think it's super dope that they're still playing despite that, and I think it, like that show match that Beyond the Summit did, I thought was super nice of them, because I think like Leffen's in a bad spot in this world because he's just not able to compete like everyone else.
Yeah. I feel so bad for him. Like I feel like he reminds me of like a Penny Hardaway, Grant Hill kind of player that like he was held back by circumstance. Where it was the visa, COVID, like I think 3 years of his career like were stopped because he literally couldn't enter tournaments.
Yeah. And I also think, like, I know this is sort of silly, but for GOAT discussions, like I know Leffen, for example, like is often argued, whether he's above, below, like say a PPMD or an Asin, right? Who are often like around that range on GOAT lists. And it's like, look, man, if I'm going to get a tiebreaker, between it all is that Levin's been screwed by circumstance more than anybody. And so I kind of want to give him the tiebreaker just for that, right? Like, there's so many what ifs around that guy's. He got banned, for example, during when he was on its come up. That's like another what if, right? Like,
Yeah.
it seems like as good as he's been, like the what he could have been has been so much more. Like, all of them of us have been waiting to say definitively 11 is the best in the world, and we just haven't been able to. And it
And
just
to be
hasn't
fair, like
happened.
PP and people are pointing out PPMD and his health. Like I think, yeah, his
That's a good
legacy
one. Yeah.
is a
No, I
big
mean
what if.
that's a fair point too. That's a fair point too. I'm not
I
gonna
think that actually makes like
argue.
a good segment, right? If you wanted some future YouTube comment, is like the what ifs of Melee, right? Like what if
Yeah.
like Javi and Tuga got to play in '06 at the MLG, right? Like how good would they have done against PC? I think they could have been PC and Korean DJ's Spaceys in that time.
Yeah, I don't think they would have. Do you think they would have beat Ken and
They would
Asin?
have not been. They would have not beat Chu. They definitely wouldn't have beat Hugs. Like they had no Samus like experience whatsoever, so they would have lost to the random oddball players. I
Mhm.
do think that they would have beat PC and Korean DJ and Dittos in like Fox Aqua.
Oh yeah, and those matchups, like, they were monsters. You look at those VODs and you're like, dude, I feel like I just fast forward 4 years, right? Like, they look like 2010 players,
Like PC
like
does shield
back then.
pressure and then like Javi shines out a shield and up smashes. Like
Yeah,
okay, like what is PC gonna do in like one tournament set to figure that out?
yeah, I don't know. So that's always one of the open questions. It feels like Javi is another player where he's never really put onto top 20s of like greats of all time lists, but like, that's a circumstantial thing. Like, I think if he did go to NA tournaments, the big ones, during his prime, he probably would be, right?
Yeah, I think it's
So
like an actual good thought. Um, So I'm like excited. I think the one exhibition match that I would low key pull for is like Armada versus IBDW, where like Armada plays the role of Rocky. There's a new challenger in IBDW who's like the Russian like person. Armada's claiming that like he's not like outdated, that the meta hasn't changed, and he proves it. Like I think that'd be so badass from Armada if he could do that.
I mean, I think when people talk about like what player do you want to see back, if your answer isn't Armada, you're wrong. Right? Like, I think for the most part, you're just wrong, because Armada would still be a top player. He hasn't been gone long enough where he wouldn't be a top player, right? And I just think, like, if we got him back, that we would get a genuine top level threat, like could become best in the world again, kind of guy again, and that would be sick. Like, that's just an amazing person to
Yeah.
add back.
But like I think
Um,
like the one thing that's like sad about it, right? Like, and I'm sure Armada has a ton of reasons, right? Like if he's not motivated, plus the airplane trip, right? Like those are understandable, right? But like one of the big things he said was like, I'm tired of playing against Jigglypuff, and now more than ever, like HBox is on a terrible slump. He's not even going to be playing against Puff that much anymore. Like I think if there's ever a time for him to come back, and one of the big barriers of him to come back doesn't exist anymore, like it's now.
Yeah, no, if Armada doesn't come back within 2 years, and, like, basically, if he does come back, it won't be a good, it'll be like Ken in 2014, like, maybe not to that level, but, like, yeah, actually, maybe. Because when Ken came back in, what, 2014-ish, 2013, 20, that little span, he still did really well. Like, remember, he got ninth at Evo, or third, was it 13th at Evo? So
And
Ken
like he
did.
barely made it. He barely missed out on bracket at MSG. He lost to like Lucky at the very end.
Yeah, he was taking sets off plenty of SoCal hitters, and this one, SoCal was by far the best region at SSS's. Like, he was doing quite well still, Ken, which, goes against the narrative of, like, I mean, this guy hadn't played for like 6-7 years, right? And he was like straight up implanted from the '07 era, and he got dropped into 2014 Melee, and he was still doing decent.
It's like the
Um,
Jordan on the Wizards era.
yeah, I mean, turns out he still can. Wow,
Yeah.
crazy. I know. Um, you
Jordan,
know,
the
uh,
Wizards era was pretty good before he got injured. They would
yeah,
have gone
it
to the
was.
playoffs.
Ken is literally Jordan Wizard Air. I think that's actually a fantastic comparison. Where it's like, okay, this isn't like GOAT level anymore, but damn, we're pretty impressed that you're still doing this. Like, that's
Like
pretty
his
fucking
hands hurt,
impressive.
he's injured. Like yeah, I think the
Yeah.
parallels match.
Yeah, so it's cool. So, like, I think we can expect, if like a PPMD, for example, comes back, if it ever happens, probably to be similar-ish, where it's like, unless he like does something historic, it's most likely going to be like a Ken level comeback at best, right? Like, I think what Ken did was really special and hard to do. to come back and still be pretty good, and still definitely be a top, like a high level, like a player. Like I think probably would be the same for PP, where you'd be like, wow, still high level. I don't know if he's quite be like getting like 9ths and 13ths like Ken was. Like maybe he would. I can't tell. For Armada, if he waits a while, he'll be in that same spot, right? So now I don't think he has any intention of coming back. So we're talking like that's a thing. But the point is that the window for which he could come back and still be a top player is probably like 1 to 2 years, right? In which and after that it starts becoming really hard.
Yeah. I mean, I think he'll
Yeah.
probably do his like Ken level, maybe like a notch a little higher than that. Should we take questions for like the next like 10 to 15 minutes? Like
Yeah.
I think this was a pretty good discussion so far.
Yeah, I'm down. Let's do it.
I am looking to the chat. I wonder how much like stream delay there's.
Probably a little bit.
What's the sickest thing you've seen Zane do as like people fill in with more questions?
Can I tell you something that's funny? The sickest thing I'll Zane do this month is something that's like super. This is like a fucking blur moment. Like this is the stuff I appreciate. I just tweeted it recently. It's this thing. If I could put the I'm gonna put it in chat. I don't know how YouTube people are gonna see it, but this thing. He dash forwards, does a back jump, and on the left side, and does this aerial drift that's like so frame perfect and pure that I've never seen an aerial drift quite like that off a back jump. So we're talking about Mart's forward air literally covering center stage and full corner in the middle of Dreamland, off a back jump. And it's like the dash distance is so perfect too. Like I don't know, that it's funny because I feel like it's like I'm literally talking about one forward air. I'm not even talking about like some dumbass combo. But that clip, like, show me better aerial drift. Like I don't know if I've ever seen anything like that.
I'm showing it on stream right now.
Yeah. So go back. So to understand what I'm saying, look at this fair he does in this one right here. How the fuck does he do like that? He does a dash forward, perfect back jump, and then he must frame one to a full drift left and get that forward air. What the fuck is that? Have you ever seen anyone drift like that?
No, not like Zane. Actually,
Not like that.
Mango would probably like have some moments of drift.
That's insane.
Cool. We got some more questions in the queue. We'll answer like 5 or 6 of them. Is Fox metagame stale right now with IBDW the only top Fox active? I don't think so. I think a lot of the thing that we're seeing all across the board, whether it's like Moki, Azel, is that the Foxes are learning how to take away space without making themselves vulnerable. And like I think that's like one of the biggest things I noticed as I was like getting out of Melee in like 2018, 2019, is that a lot of Foxes were aggressive, but they would give you freebies. Like where like you just have to get like one trade and that leads into grab into like 70 damage. Like when I play against IBW, when I play against Moki, they do not give me those. And I think like just the refinement and the clean play and the clean aggression is just what is evolving the game. Also, I think the punish game all across the board, maybe the meta at the very top doesn't really match, but like you look at the Foxes, like we thought of like Leffen as the Fox Punisher. You look at like the IBWs and like a bunch of the other Foxes in the top 20, like they punish really, really hard now. Look at a video in 2020 versus 2018, 2017, and you'll see those second tier Foxes just hitting a lot harder.
True, I agree. Also, I think there are more extremely fast players among the Foxes. Like it used to be like, okay, wow, Hax is an anomaly, Silent Wolf's an anomaly, like insanely fast for relative to the field. But now there's like more of them. There's like more that you're like, damn, this guy's fast too. Like
and their drift is better too. Like we just mentioned Zane, right? Like Hax, even like when he was starting to get really fast, like he would get pushed by CCing because like his drift was slightly off and he would take bad trades. Like you see less of that with the Foxes today. Next question from Tonketsu Curry: how many sets with infinite tries does it take Azel to beat current HBox on LAN? I don't know if like he beats him on LAN, right? Like if Hungrybox has crunch and like Hungrybox is like reasonably motivated.
I don't even think it's crunch. I think it's on land assumes that HBox flew on a plane, landed, had a day before after he landed to like talk to Crunch, prepare, had a day or two of pools and like general melee stuff, and then walks into the set. That's a big deal. And only because you're saying current HBox. We're talking about an HBox who's like what we expect, like trying and stuff. It should
Like
take a
Evo
lot of sets.
2016 HBox.
Well, I mean, Evo 2016 HBox is like a lot better than the HBox I just watched those sets on, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just you could just watch the VODs back to back. Like no, that puff is worse. So now I doesn't mean like he can't just do that, like be slightly more motivated and stop playing Minecraft Steve a little bit, and then and it'll be better. But that's on him.
Yep. Jake, love. Do you think the want for melee legitimacy is more than actually exists at the moment with the lack of left in, AMSA, Triff, etc., and Plup, HBox acts taking online seriously?
Interesting. So I think that we all want it to be legitimate, right? Like, so the thing is like it's not just because we want it to be like it's not because we're desperate for it to be legitimate, but because we think it's only fair, right? Like it's not fair to Leffen, but it would be so unfair to like the Zanes and the Mangoes who are adding genuine notches to their resume, where otherwise, I mean, we don't doubt that if there was land, Zane would still be winning, right? Mango would still be doing like I do think those are the two best players if we had land anyway,
Yep.
right? Like, and so and I think a lot of these people who are making come ups and making statements would be doing this at land in genuine. I think the people it's most unfair against is the people who aren't able to play net play. Not that's more unfair to me than net play's inherent lag or whatever, right? Like that's a deal. That is something. But you know, the whole thing where like and anyone not in NA can't really make real tournament results. That's a bigger deal to me.
What's one? Brennan Hell asks, "What's one thing you've coached Zane about that you've seen him implement in tournament?"
Oh man, so many things. So God, I feel like such a douchebag. Um, but I embrace it. So I think like uh one of the things that I thought was impressive that he did a lot with like the Pikachu matchup was like there's a lot of like weird Pikachu combos where you can extend it with dash attack as Marth and like as Marth and also like off the up throw. So like Marth has guaranteed forward air off up throw on DI's away at like 40%. You can get a forward air. And then the juggle is really good. So like prioritizing up throw over throwing Pikachu off stage. That's like one that comes to mind. Like there's a lot to be done and stuff. But yeah, I think that um the stuff that's most impressive to me is how he's like literally writing matchups. Like Martha's Yoshi was like everyone was just trash, just garbage.
Yeah.
And then now saying like Amsa, watch those their last sets. Like Amsa was getting got wrecked, like
It
completely
didn't look like
owned.
a match.
It was just murder. Which is funny because I always said that Marth destroys Yoshi. Even though it's one of those ones that's always listed as like, ooh, Marth has trouble with these characters. I'm like, sure, because we suck. But Marth the character murders Yoshi. It's like maybe it was one of Yoshi's worst matchups. Like super bad. And he actually showed it. Like, wow, nice, good job.
Hyperflux is pretty much asking Yoshi questions like, what do we think about Amsa ranking pre-COVID, and how do we think he's going to do in the online meta? I think that's
Um,
too hard for me to answer right now. I
he
think he would
can't
do
he
pretty
can't
well. Like,
he can't enter though. Like so, well, how can he do pretty well if he can't fucking enter?
if
I
you're,
think
yeah. Go ahead.
I think he's gonna lose a lot of skill. That's like unless he is um doing it the right way and he's still grinding. You know, like look, man, Asia's and in Australia and the people you connect with decent ping, there's still some good players out there. Like we just don't know about them as much. They're having flown over there and play. There's tons of players that can give Omsa good practice, right? Um, and so he can do that, and so he can go on unranked just like the rest of us and match up with similarly pinged opponents, and he can have a good time. But he's gonna have the disadvantage of like basically not having a tournament set for whoever knows how long. And it would take an extraordinary mental fortitude, and Amsa's up to the challenge for him not to lose an insane amount of skill. Like how it's gonna be so hard for him to not get worse at this game.
Yeah. BG's cool asked, when HFox was the best, people thought Jigs was the best. Now Zane is the best, so people think Marth is best. If Mako becomes the best, I bet people will say Falco is the best. How much do you think the best player in the world contributes to the meta and character development? I'll start. Like, I think when people say character is the best, like I think it's important to like take things with a grain of salt. That just because certain people are very vocal about saying X character is the best doesn't mean that that's the consensus that everybody says. Now, certain people, like, I think when a player takes a character and wins with the character, then we get to see the peak of that character versus other characters that may not have that peak. We don't know the peak of Bowser. We don't know the peak of, like, Luigi because no one plays them. So we don't have an assessment to say, like, yeah, like, Luigi's the best player. But when we see, like, a character win events, then, like, we have to start, like, entertain the question, like, this is the peak of what we're seeing. And of course it's going to influence it. Results matter. If Falco never won events and like constantly struggled, then yeah, he'd probably take a little bit of a dip. But I wouldn't say that's like the only thing, right? People thought Jigs was a top 3 character before all this. People thought that Marth was like a top 3 character before all this. So I don't think it changes as much as you would perceive.
I think it definitely changes some people's. It frankly hasn't changed for me for a while now. Like I thought was the best, and most of Marth's matchup spread I still have had as the same, despite all these developments. Like I don't think I've changed my opinion. I think maybe the only thing that's slightly more recently believing is that I used to think Marth beats Falcon, but just a slight edge. I'm starting to believe it's like a bigger edge than I used to believe, which is funny because I get owned by Falcon on a personal level. But like a lot of my personal opinions of Marth haven't changed much with Zane. But that's only because I had a really high opinion of Marth to begin with, and we're finally just seeing a lot of it. And then I agree though that in general, like the fair weather people, especially the Reddits of the world, like they go where the wind blows, right? And they think that like, oh, this guy must be winning because of a character. But the truth is that like Melee is a crazy deep game, and whatever you think, like these people are earning their wins. It's not,
Yeah,
it's not, it's really not. It doesn't have almost anything to do with the tier list.
yeah,
I haven't watched Dragon Fox's tier list video yet. I really mean to, but in general, like, look, no matter where you put it, you have to really focus on almost whenever you hear a top player say, "Oh yeah, but like the top few characters are really close." They mean that. They mean that. They really mean that. Like you can kind of throw it away and be like, "Yeah, the guy winning is just winning because he's better because that's
yeah.
how it works.
I mean,
It's Melee."
I think like one story that doesn't get shared a lot, that Blur, you remember this vividly, when like Hungrybox was in peak form. We watched Hungrybox play Mewtwo King and friendlies like in the back, like behind the screen, like where like the top player VIP section is, and Hungrybox was beating Mewtwo King with Fox, like in Fox Marth. Do you remember that?
Yes, that's insane. I do remember that.
Like people who like, even though Hungrybox is probably the most extreme end of the spectrum of like people saying like he's not good with other characters and Puff carries him, like his other characters aren't bad. Like he beat a
I
bunch
mean,
of.
I mean, we saw the Genghis One run at Genesis Black or whatever it was. It was black red. I don't remember the colors. He did insanely well. Like he was saying, he took Lucky to game 5. He beat Eddie Mexico. But like he had tons of wins. Like, and he looked competent in every single match he had. Like,
And this was like
um,
it was 2019 Genesis, right? That this happened, that we watched it.
I want to say, yeah.
And people are gonna doubt him, but like, how many Foxes can realistically beat Mewtwo Kings like Marth and friendlies, right?
Yeah, and again, it is friendlies, but nonetheless, the point is that like, um, yeah, people love to discredit it, but like an H box, he's always been insane. He's insane. That guy's an insane player. That guy's a freaking insanely good player, and you know, it wouldn't be hard for him to beat top 20 players with his other characters. Now, in his prime, for those eras, it would have been a thing, which is and part of it's his secondaries got better over the years, but forgetting that, like, even if he didn't have good secondaries, doesn't mean he's not ridiculous, right? Like, Melee's a game of skill. It's
Yeah.
just, if you're better, you're better.
Yeah, options are options. Like, yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, I don't understand how anyone can play Melee nowadays in unranked, for example, and not realize that, like, the dude's beating you or beating you because they're better than you. They're like how can you not tell? Right? Like, damn, have you never played a match when someone's just faster and better than you? Like, it's the same shit, just that, like, they're at the top level. It's they're better. That's how it goes.
And I think the things that Hungrybox is good at, people underappreciate. Like Hungrybox's aerial control and like spacing, like in zoning, is actually really good. And that's like a puff skill that transfers to other characters.
Well, yeah, I mean, to be fair, we've had shit Commentator for a really long time
That's true.
about this sort of stuff. And also, it's just not many people play like Puff and stuff, so it's like they can't relate like as easily. But like some of these things are really hard. It's funny because you watch Zane's Puff, which is actually pretty good. He gets some weird rest that HBox never gets. But like Zane's having an insanely hard time edge guarding as Puff. And it's like, yeah, HBox gets every edge guard. He has like some of the highest edge guard percentage of anybody. That's not easy with any character in Melee, right? Like mix-ups are still the same. Like you still have to cover angles and all that stuff. It's still really fucking hard. And yeah, the fact that this guy gets them all is pretty good. It's really hard. That's just one example, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that's like pretty much it for the questions. I had a really fun time doing this. I think there's enough Melee to talk about that we can like occasionally come out like maybe bi-weekly. I had a really good time with you, Blur.
Always a pleasure, man. It's always a good time.
Always good.
The commentator's curse. I'm down whenever. You just put the call out, and you put a tweet out, and I was like, all right, I'm there. I'm in.
Yeah, you're in. One day, someday in the future, we'll be able to eat dinner together.
Dude, I'm down. Can I say it's fucked up? I'm down in the COVID era. We can go to an outdoor restaurant. I'm fucking fine with it, dude. I'm so cooped up.
I have the Korean barbecue meta down at my place.
Do you?
Yeah, I post pictures of it. I have a little grill. Like I get my meat. I can make the side dishes. I have the rice paper.
Yeah.
Like I have everything.
Well, if you want to hang out, I'm down. You could be in my circle of people I hang out with at this point. Because if this shit's gonna actually last a really long time, like.
Okay, so here's the meta.
I'm not trying to see Tavo for that long.
We self quarantine for 2 days. We take a test. It's really easy. I actually took it recently. I tested negative.
Nice.
And then after we get our negative test, we go out or like we hang out.
I'm down.
I don't even require that. If you've been reasonably social distancing, just
I haven't done a test yet, so I figure out how to do that. But
it's really trivially easy. You just sign up on you just type in Los Angeles COVID testing. You sign up, you go, you drive your car to the place. They just give you a little bag. You swab your nose, and then you give it to them. And they give you the results in 2 days.
I'm down. I'll do this for the dinner. I'll be like, fuck it. Yeah, let's do it.
Sounds good.
Also, it's just give me peace of mind. So it's a good idea anyway.
Yeah. Actually, it might be a good thing if you already had it and you went asymptomatic. Then you win the lottery.
Oh, then does that just mean you can do whatever you want? Is that how it works?
You're 99% immune, probably. I know there's just very, very slim cases of people re-getting it a second time. It's in the it's really small. So you're invincible.
That's hype. Being invincible would be a sick feeling.
Yeah. Well, anyway, this will go up on YouTube. This is super exciting.